Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump pardoning Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar and his wife Imelda. And the president slated to announce new fuel economy standards alongside top executives from Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. More fallout following the shooting of National Guard members in Washington, D.C. The Trump administration pausing immigration and asylum applications from 19 countries. Federal agents launch a major immigration crackdown in New Orleans, targeting suspects once arrested for violent crimes. The pandemic-era enhanced subsidies for the Affordable Care Act are expiring soon. Will lawmakers arrive at a plan before the subsidies expire? President Trump suggested that Americans may not have income tax to pay in the future due to tariffs, which would require trillions in tariff revenue. What will be the impact of this on trade and the economy? Republican Matt Van Epps wins Tennessee's special House election. Meanwhile, Democrat Myra Marcias launches an independent campaign for a congressional seat in Chicago.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. President Trump pardoning Texas Representative Henry Cuellar and his wife Imelda. Cuellar was indicted last year on more than a dozen federal charges, and the president expected to make an announcement today from the Oval Office about new fuel economy standards. We now go live to our Washington correspondent, Mari Otsu, at the North Lawn of the White House. Mari, good afternoon.
Don, good afternoon. Yes, President Trump today is pardoning Texas Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar and his wife Imelda. Cuellar was an outspoken critic of former President Joe Biden's border policies before the couple was indicted back in May 2024 for allegedly accepting nearly $600,000 in bribes in exchange for influencing U.S. foreign policy in favor of Azerbaijan and a Mexican bank. Cuellar, however, has denied all of these charges. And President Trump announcing a, quote, full and unconditional pardon of the Cuellars on Truth Social, says, quote, for years, the Biden administration weaponized the justice system against their political opponents and anyone who disagreed with them. He goes on to say that one of the clearest examples of this was when Biden, quote, used the FBI and DOJ to take out a member of his own party after Cuellar, quote, bravely spoke out against open borders and what President Trump calls the Biden border catastrophe. He says that because of those facts and others, he is hereby announcing his full and unconditional pardon of the Cuellars. President Trump attaches to that post a letter from the Cuellars' two daughters pleading for their parents' clemency, calling them individuals, honest individuals, and good, decent people. Cuellar responds by thanking President Trump for what he calls his, quote, tremendous leadership and for taking the time to look at the facts. He also thanks God and says that this pardon will allow his family to start over with a clean slate. Don.
You know, definitely interesting choice by the president, and maybe even unusual for a Republican president to pardon a sitting Democratic member of Congress. Well, Mari, what can we expect from President Trump's Oval Office announcement this afternoon?
Sure, Don. So President Trump, in just a little while, is slated to unveil what the White House is calling a historic reset of federal fuel standards and to tout $109 billion in energy savings. President Trump is expected to be joined in the Oval Office by top executives from Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. The White House says that it will be rolling back what it calls aggressive reforms that were enacted under Obama and tightened under Biden, with the administration saying that these Biden-era regulations would have increased the cost of a new car by more than $1,000 relative to these newer standards that they're ushering in today. This comes as President Trump more broadly is making a messaging push toward affordability. Here he is in his cabinet meeting yesterday. Take a look.
But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. They say it and then they go into the next subject and everyone thinks, oh, they had lower prices. No, they had the worst inflation in the history of our country.
So the president is trying to get Republicans to reclaim the messaging on affordability ahead of the 2026 midterm elections, saying that he inherited the, quote, a worst inflation ever from his predecessor. And Vice President J.D. Vance and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent are also telling Americans to hold on and be patient, to wait until 2026, as that will be the year when Americans really see the effects of the Trump administration's economic agenda. Take a look.
I think for congressional Democrats in particular, if they want to talk about affordability, they ought to look in the mirror. We are fixing what they're broken. We're proud to do it. It's the job that we were elected to do. But I think 2026 is going to be the year where this economy really takes off.
So as a result, in 2026, we are going to see very substantial tax refunds in the first quarter. So the best way to address the affordability crisis is to give Americans more money in their pockets, which is what this bill has done. We're going to see real wage increases. I think next year is going to be a fantastic year. Taxes, deregulation, energy certainty.
And President Trump, meanwhile, continues to tout deals that lower health care costs. And yesterday, the president suggested that income tax could be completely eliminated in the next couple of years due to what he calls massive tariff revenue. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you. President Trump says he is nullifying every document former President Biden approved using what he calls an auto pen. He announced yesterday all auto pen signed executive actions under Biden are now void and without legal effect. Trump also said pardons, commutations, or any legal papers signed in that way are terminated. He says the move follows his earlier decision to revoke all auto pen signed executive orders from the Biden years. Trump says that Biden wasn't personally involved in approving these signatures, and aides misused the process. A congressional investigation concluded senior officials abused auto pen authority and couldn't prove Biden authorized any key actions. Former special counsel Jack Smith has been called to appear before the House Judiciary Committee. In a letter, Chairman Jim Jordan told Smith this is over the prosecution of President Trump. Smith investigated President Trump for allegedly meddling in the 2020 election. He eventually brought criminal charges against Trump. One is related to the election, another for allegedly mishandling classified documents. Both cases were dropped after Trump won re-election. The subpoena also demands all documents and communications related to Smith's time as special counsel. Smith is expected to appear on December 17th. The Trump administration is pausing immigration applications for individuals from 19 countries. That's according to a policy memo from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services.
White House hit pause on all immigration applications for people from Somalia and 18 other non-European countries, citing national security and public safety concerns. The official memorandum outlining the new policy points to recent crimes suspected to be committed by immigrants, including the deadly attack on U.S. National Guard members in Washington last week. An Afghan man was arrested as a suspect, and Afghanistan is also on the list. Trump promised a flurry of restrictions after the National Guard attack.
It was a crime against our entire nation.
Most of the countries targeted were slapped with severe immigration restrictions in June, including Afghanistan, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Myanmar, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, while Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela were subjected to partial restrictions. The new policy places a hold on pending applications, including green card and U.S. citizenship processing. It also orders all immigrants from the list of countries to be re-reviewed, which involves, quote, a potential interview and, if necessary, a re-interview to fully assess all national security and public safety threats.
The Trump administration continues to limit U.S. visas for certain foreign nationals. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced today that there will be consequences for those who persecute people of faith. In a post on X, he said, quote, the State Department will restrict U.S. visas for those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, to support, or carry out violations of religious freedom. This visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people for their religious beliefs. Rubio said this policy is in response to atrocities and violence against Christians in Nigeria. So far, it's unclear what other governments or individuals are targeted. The Homeland Security Committee is holding a hearing today amid a rise in violence against law enforcement. Committee Chairman Andrew Garbarino had more to say in this opening statement.
Public trust and public safety go hand in hand, and I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today about how they believe agencies can strike an appropriate balance between officer safety and law enforcement accountability. Our witnesses today have seen the consequences of this rising harassment and violence firsthand. I hope their testimony reminds my colleagues and the American people that those who wear the badge are human beings whose dedication to safeguarding our country should never make them targets.
Today's hearing follows several violent incidents involving law enforcement. On July 7th, an individual armed with a rifle and tactical gear attacked a Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. That attack injured multiple officers. In September, a shooter opened fire on an ICE facility in Dallas, killing 2 detainees and injuring 2 others. The FBI is investigating the act as an act of targeted violence against law enforcement. In October, DHS discovered gangs in Mexico have placed bounties on ICE officers and Border Patrol agents. Federal authorities launched a new immigration enforcement operation today in New Orleans. Tricia McLaughlin, DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, previewed the operation during an interview with CNN this morning.
Catalina Crunch, which we are launching today down in New Orleans, we're first and foremost really focusing on those worst of the worst criminals, those criminals who have previously been locked up by local authorities, but then because New Orleans functions as a sanctuary city, those individuals were not released to ICE. They were instead released back onto New Orleans streets. So we're talking about child pedophiles who are on our list of targets, burglars, gang members, rapists. Those individuals we are highly targeting, and we will continue whether it be 5,000 arrests or beyond.
DHS says the targets include illegal immigrants released after arrest. Their crimes include home invasion, armed robbery, grand theft auto, and rape. The full scope of the operation hasn't been detailed. Officials previously expected to run through the end of the year, with a brief slowdown around Christmas. President Trump said yesterday the National Guard will be deployed to the city in the coming weeks. The Democratic-run city is the latest location added to the administration's stepped-up enforcement efforts. It follows recent actions in Charlotte, North Carolina. The pandemic-era enhanced subsidies for the Affordable Care Act are expiring soon. Lawmakers are set to vote on the subsidies. Joining us to discuss is Angie Wong, Republican strategist and political columnist, and we have Mike Leon, a host of Can We Please Talk podcast and director of strategy at the Free and Equal Elections Foundation. So Mike, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the likelihood here of lawmakers arriving at a plan that will give the necessary 60 votes before the subsidies expire?
0%, Don. That's it. That's my answer. No, good to see everybody. Angie, good to see you as always. I mean, if you just look at what John Barrasso said the other day about, as he was pushing back at Democrats in the House saying they want a 3-year extension, some people want permanent resolution with that, then if we're that far off where we're blaming each other already from this, we're not going to come to some type of resolution before the Christmas break. So the subsidies will expire before we get into the 26th fiscal year. So if we're just basing it off of the words of people in Congress, I know sometimes that's a little tough to do because they say one thing and then they mean something else. I would say we're not going to reach a deal. But look, this is, Don, you and I have been talking about this for the past, couple months since we had the government shut down. I said we'd be back here because of the fight for this and the expiration of these subsidies. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to lose health care insurance. But people like me, I'll just put myself into this mix. You know, I'm a private contractor. I don't have a W-2 job. I rely on this system to be able to get health care benefits for my daughter, one who is on the spectrum and has special needs. So like, these are things that are important to somebody just like me, using myself as an example. So to see the members of Congress, in both chambers, House and Senate, battling like this, you know, in the public forum and not actually talking to each other about a resolution for this is something that's troubling to me for sure.
So Angie, like Mike said, millions of people could be impacted here. How do you feel about the situation at hand?
I actually agree with Mike. I think it's going to be 0% that this thing passes mid-December. You would need 13 senators to cross the aisle to join this. And it's a very highly unpopular bill for Republicans anyway. This is the Obamacare that nobody wants to extend, although it almost is necessary. And Donald Trump came out to say that a few days ago, to say we may actually do need to extend this because it will affect over 20 million Americans who do right now subscribe to this plan. And if they don't by December 15th renew their premiums, they jump up and it could be double what they're currently paying. So President Trump's not going to allow that to happen. But at the same time, he knows that Republicans are not very favorable of extending something that was meant to be a temporary subsidy. And there's all the points that we can go down. But ultimately, nobody wants to just put a Band-Aid over something as important as healthcare and insurance for all Americans. So they want more time. And I think that's what's going to happen. We may have to extend it for maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of months, just so that President Trump and his team can hash out a better plan. And I think he's already touted Trump care all over online anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Okay, Mike, can you just respond to this point that Angie brought up? Aren't these subsidies, the pandemic era subsidies, supposed to be temporary? That's never meant to be permanent anyway?
Correct. Yeah, Angie's right. I mean, look, the problem with fixing healthcare is that the system is bloated, convoluted, and there's too much power with the insurance providers. Let me use myself as an example, Don. You know, when I was a W-2 employee getting healthcare insurance, and then let's say I get let go from an employer, your COBRA benefits last year, I believe, anywhere between 15 to 18 months. It's almost double, sometimes triple the price, but you get the same level of coverage. When you lose a job like that, and there are millions of people like me that are in the contract, freelance space, when they're going to the healthcare marketplace, the Obamacare, ACA stuff, a lot of the times they won't get the same coverage that they would get from a W-2 thing, right? So they rely on some of these things that we've been talking about. But again, as Angie said, these were temporary Band-Aids that were never meant to be a long-term remedy. So the Trump administration, and by the way, every administration has had this same failure. Even with Obamacare coming in, the mandates that were part of that should have never been part of that. My wife's a medical secretary and has educated me on a lot of these things that have happened given the different offices that she's worked at. Like, the issue is that the insurance providers have too much power, and a lot of people don't have that W-2 employer insurance, and then you get into the coverage of insurance. So what do we do, right? What does the Trump administration do? They're up against the wall because they're meeting a deadline where you're going to have 22 million people by the CBO's estimate that could lose insurance, or could have people that have premiums that are higher in 26. But then the other part of it is the system's broken. So how do you fix the system while also giving the temporary Band-Aid and relief so people don't lose any of these ability to take advantage of these programs, and they don't lose, all of their health care all at once in one fell swoop? It's an unenviable position for any administration. Remove the person who's in 1600 Pennsylvania right now. It hasn't been tackled. It hasn't been fixed. We can go back and finger point a bunch of things, but at the end of the day, the system is bloated. And I think the Trump administration is trying to balance, how do we extend this, not have another government shutdown under my watch, and then also fix, like what Angie said, if it's Trump care, of course, he has to add his name in there. But if it's something like that actually fixes the system of how we all get health insurance and get the correct coverages for what we need, then we got to see what that looks like in 26 and beyond.
Angie, I just want to build on Mike's point here. Nearly 8 in 10 Americans want to renew the tax credits, according to a Kaiser Family Foundation poll. Do you think it's worthwhile for Republicans to just extend the ACA subsidies?
Oh, well, again, I don't think we have much of a choice. We're talking less than 2 weeks before everyone has to decide what they're going to do with their health care. And if they don't, the premiums will jump up. That's always been the warning. So I think it almost is a non-negotiable at this point, where Republicans will have to come together and extend it, but just by a very, very short period of time. I can't imagine it to be more than a year, although the midterms play a big, big role in this, because quite honestly, if I were the strategist on this, I don't want to deal with this issue come the midterm. I don't want healthcare insurance to be part of that conversation. There are plenty of other things that we can talk about to win on the midterms, but healthcare is certainly not a winning issue for Republicans. Although, look, Trump is doing a great job. He's negotiating with a bunch of pharmaceutical companies and getting the favorable nation prices down for a lot of our popular drugs. I think he's going to bring Trump RX online at some point in 2026. So I'm interested in seeing what that's about. But I agree with Mike. We need to stop just funneling money into these healthcare insurance companies to then tell us what we can do with our own medical plans. If we could cut out the middleman, I think a lot of Americans would be very, very happy to take on their own responsibility and create their own health plan with the money that is provided by the government to do so.
Mike, should we put the subsidies directly into the pockets of consumers, which would allow patients to decide what to buy, and it creates market competition?
Yeah. I mean, the simple answer, Don, is yes. I do agree with Angie's overall point. And again, I can't stress this enough, because I think a lot of the times when people watch these panels, they don't hear, they hear people give anecdotal evidence, right? As opposed to what's actually happening in my life. Because I'm going through this, Don, like right now, right? Like I went through the process of a W-2 employer's insurance and what that's being taken out pre-tax of your check, to now a contract employee and actually having to go through the Obamacare website and seeing what Fidelis covers that Cigna actually covers. Fidelis doesn't cover it. So when you switch your healthcare provider, unfortunately, to quote Barack Obama, you don't get to keep your doctor, well, like he said back in the day, because your doctor's not going to take that certain level of coverage. So to Angie's point, we do need to give people the option to be able to take the healthcare plan that they want and that they need for their families, given their needs of whether it be the children or whether it be the parents, and give them money in their pockets that they can be able to use for that. Now, I know companies obviously set up HSAs and all of this type of money that you can put aside to be able to, almost save for a rainy day in case you need a procedure, things like that. And there's more coverage afforded to these insurance providers. But again, the biggest thing in all of this that I always come back to is, and it's funny to me that the Trump admin hasn't been more front-facing on this, specifically because they brought in Doge to cut everything that's bloated in government spending. Well, why wouldn't we look at insurance providers, and especially at this industry? Because this industry, I mean, we see a high-profile murder of one of the CEOs of this industry on trial right now with Luigi Mangione. That was front and center of talking about the healthcare debate in this country. Why did that murder happen, right? We can get into the underlying layers that are going to be discovered in the trial, but the actual issue is about the way people get healthcare insurance in this country. And there's millions of people that don't have it. There's millions of people that are underinsured. I'm not even talking about those folks right now. The system is bloated, and I would like for there to be a fix. And the fix, I think, will come, like Angie said, you don't want to talk about this too much at the midterms, but the fix will come by putting money back in Americans' pocket and giving them the control to be able to go out there and get their insurance and have the freedom to exercise what it is that they want to do with their healthcare plan needs.
Angie, could Trump Care be a win for patients and consumers?
I think so. Look, the guy's pretty busy right now, right? He's taking care of a lot of world wars and solving lots of problems everywhere. I know he's going to get to this. Mike, I'm just so happy that we can have this dialogue here on TV, because that's what's going to be happening on the Senate floor in a couple of days. And I'm glad that these issues are coming arise, because it affects all Americans. We're looking at least 45 million Americans that somehow are part of these plans that are currently they're currently enrolled in these ACA plans. So, this is not something that you can not talk about, because it's a huge, huge portion of Americans, and there should be a solution. Look, we've solved a lot of things. We're able to take very difficult situations and find solutions for them. I think this one we can solve. I think because the Trump administration is working with the pharmaceuticals, is working with doctors, and should be working, as Mike said, with the health insurance companies. I think we can solve this. And remember, we're with the art of the deal president. He would love to solve this problem domestically.
Mike, I want to know where you stand on Trump Care.
Well, I'll piggyback on something Angie just said there. First off, Angie, good to see you. We could have just done this together in person since we're both down here in Florida. But what's funny to me is that you said Trump Care. Why did you say Trump Care, Don? Because he loves putting things, his name in front of it and saying, I can solve it. I will do it. So it would be a huge win for him to be able to tout that he solved this issue. And he's, by the way, in his first administration, he told Republicans, if you recall, he was saying all the time adamantly, this is something we need to solve. He never liked Obamacare. He always wanted to repeal and replace it, but they never had a plan for it. We're here now 6, 7, 8 years later. We still don't have a plan for it, but he does know the importance of it. It's a losing issue, to what Angie said earlier, for Republicans, because now we've had two different Trump administration sandwiched in between a Biden one, and we haven't truly solved the healthcare crisis, which is what we've been talking about across this panel. So I think he understands the importance of it. The naming convention, forget about that just for a second. I think he understands that there could be a huge victory at the beginning of 26 whether we extend the subsidies or we figure out some type of intermediate 90, 120-day rollout plan for Americans with respect to healthcare so that you don't lose the health insurance. It's something that people that are going to be in some of these purple districts in the House and Senate, they can take with them on the road and say, look, we did do this for you guys. We are championing that we are the party of healthcare. Democrats shut down over healthcare. We actually went out there and solved it. I can't believe I'm giving the Republicans the strategy in the playbook, but they could do that. And I think Trump understands that. I know Angie knows that Trump understands that. And this is something that I'm sure it's top of mind for the president. It's top of mind for John Thune. It's top of mind for Speaker Johnson, and giving that information to the president that this is a losing issue if we don't do something about this.
Angie, your final comments here. What's at the core of the problems? High premiums, not a lot of choice, poor outcomes for patients' health. What's at the core of the issue?
The core of the issue for Obamacare is that it was never perfect. It never got fixed. And it was never affordable, like the name says, affordable health care. It is not at all, because if the government has to continually subsidize it and write blank checks to it, well, it's not a winning formula. A lot of this comes from the fact that there's not a competitive marketplace, like you brought up. The government restrictions make it impossible for all healthcare insurers to jump in. If we loosen that or maybe do separate plans, I'm not sure what the actual answer is, because we would have to do such a deep dive into it. But you have to make the marketplace a lot more competitive state by state so that other insurers can come in and be part of this, or just get rid of all the health care insurance altogether and do a single pay plan for all Americans. So these are the hard things that has to be discussed on the Senate floor, the House floor, and also in the Oval Office. But, these things change. We're modernizing every single day. Technology, medicine, everything is moving so fast. We look outside the U.S., we see models that we can replicate. I think you almost have to give it that allotted time to go through and see what's going to be best for us. And I would love to have Elon Musk and other technologists as part of this conversation, because they'll be able to see forward. We're stuck in this really old place where healthcare insurance and, submitting paperwork and all this stuff, maybe all that can go away with the right minds involved in this conversation.
Well, all right, Mike, Angie, thank you for having this conversation with us. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Good to see you.
Republican Matt Van Epps wins Tennessee's special House election. Meanwhile, Democrat Myra Marcius launches an independent campaign for a congressional seat in Chicago. More news after this break.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're going to benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Republican Matt Van Epps has won Tennessee's special election in the 7th Congressional District. The former state commissioner and Army helicopter pilot defeated Democrat Afton Ben with just over 53% of the vote, according to the Associated Press. Ben finished with roughly 46%. Van Epps said his victory sent a loud and clear message that the people of Tennessee stand with President Trump. Here's more.
Our victory was powered by supporters of President Trump turning out to vote. The president built the largest, most diverse coalition to ever elect a Republican, and we leaned in on that. President Trump was all in with us, and it made the difference. In Congress, I'll be all in with him. Thank you. Thank you.
President Trump reacted on Truth Social, congratulating Epps, saying, quote, "The radical left Democrats threw everything at him, including millions of dollars." On Monday, Van Epps headlined a rally which featured House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senator Marsha Blackburn. Trump also called into a Monday rally. On the Democrat side, former Vice President Al Gore and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stumped for Ben. Millions of dollars were poured into both campaigns. Van Epps will represent 14 counties in Middle Tennessee, filling the seat vacated by Congressman Mark Green. The win helps Republicans maintain their narrow House majority leading into 2026. Ben conceded last night, crediting volunteers for keeping the race close.
Democratic activist Mayra Marcias launched an independent campaign for the U.S. House today. She is vying for the Chicago area seat of retiring Congressman Chuy Garcia. Here's more.
Macias worked as a field organizer for former President Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. She also led a nonprofit that backed former President Biden's policy agenda. Chuy Garcia faced criticism from some in his party last month for announcing his retirement after the state's candidate filing deadline. That ensured his handpicked successor, his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, would run unopposed for the party's nomination. Patty Garcia will be the Democratic Party's nominee and is not related to him. Chuy Garcia has said concerns about his and his wife's health and the adoption of their grandson prompted the last-minute reversal. And in more political news, James Solomon has been elected mayor of Jersey City, defeating former New Jersey Governor Jim McGreevey in a runoff. Solomon, a city council member since 2017, ran on a platform to make the city more affordable. He promised to tackle rising housing costs, invest in public safety, and improve schools. Solomon emphasized standing up to developers, special interests, and even President Trump. The Trump administration is suing to end Jersey City's sanctuary city protections. Solomon plans to hire 100 new police officers and create a civilian complaint review board for oversight. McGreevey was running for office for the first time since resigning as governor in 2004.
The Justice Department sued 6 more states yesterday for refusing to respond to a request for statewide voter registration rolls. In the lawsuit, the department accuses the states of defying federal civil rights laws. It argues the law requires states to maintain accurate voter rolls and make those records available for inspection. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement that the states had fallen into a pattern of non-compliance and that the law requires them to comply with basic voter roll maintenance. The states involved include Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. This latest action brings the total to at least 14 states the department has sued in an effort to obtain voter information. Representatives from the 6 states have not officially commented on the lawsuit. President Trump tells Americans his tariffs will save them massive tax dollars next year, doubling down on his proposal to give out dividend checks. Listen to what he had to say.
They told me that next year is projected to be the largest tax refund season ever, and we're going to be giving back refunds out of the tariffs because we've taken in literally trillions of dollars, and we're going to be giving a nice dividend to the people in addition to reducing debt.
The president also spoke about lowering taxes to the point that many could pay very little for income tax or eventually having no income tax at all due to how much money the country is making from his tariff policies. Any changes to the tax code will need approval from Congress. NTD spoke to several Republican lawmakers to get a sense for how they feel about the dividend checks. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
If the president wants to realize this goal of sending $2,000 dividend checks to American families, Congress will need to sign off on it. But it appears right now that most Republicans are undecided as to whether or not they would support this. One Republican Senator, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, said that any revenue that is gained from tariffs should be used to pay down the national debt. Yesterday, I asked several lawmakers on the House side how they feel about such an idea. Many of them told me they need to wait and see how the numbers add up. What are your thoughts on President Trump's idea to give $2,000 dividend checks to people from the tariff revenues that he's raking in right now?
Well, I think people would welcome that, and I think that people need to understand that the tariffs are a tool in the tool chest the president is using to negotiate trade deals. That's the most significant thing because he has negotiated a number of great trade deals.
I'm not sure. We have to really look at that. That has to be something that we have to really think through.
It's something I need to learn more about. First time in a decade, we actually have more money than we're spending out because President Trump's decisions are slowly but surely turning the tide. Now, we got a long ways to go, but I think he's a great president. He's making a lot of progress.
Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson previously said he thinks this is a good idea, but he also says he needs to wait and see how the math looks next year.
He's thinking about something maybe midway into next year when the tariff revenue is realized and we can figure out what that looks like.
Considering Republicans' slim majority in Congress, there will need to be significant, if not entire, Republican support for this in order for it to get through Congress if all Democrats are opposing it. But I think what could help Trump get Republicans on board with this is if they see the tariffs consistently raking in a substantial amount of revenue, and of course the pressure could continue to grow if Trump keeps tightening up on this request. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
President Trump suggested that Americans may not have income tax to pay in the future. Joining us to discuss is Joseph Trevisani, economic and currency analyst at FX Street. Joseph, always great to see you. Good afternoon. So what is your view on the likelihood and feasibility of tariff revenue completely replacing income tax? Because calculations...
Hi, Don. Good to see you. Is tariff revenue going to replace the income tax? I can say that quite unequivocally, no, it will not. There really isn't any chance. The government needs and depends on income tax. And the idea that a tariff can, without damaging the economy, make it at high enough levels without damaging the economy, it just doesn't seem realistic. Is this a political statement? Yes, I would imagine so.
So you talked about raising tariffs to the point that is enough for income tax replacement while not damaging the economy. Can you talk a bit more about that? Because according to calculations by Axios, the money that is required, the revenue required, is $2.5 trillion a year to offset income tax. What would be the impact of that on trade and the economy?
Well, it would be disastrous. I don't think there's any realistic point that will happen. I mean, even if you just talk about even if you take the extreme point of view and say every industry that manufacturers here will be totally autarkic, meaning just here in the United States, it still requires all sorts of raw materials, of partially finished products from overseas. I don't really see any reality to that. Now, are we talking about economic reality or political reality? As far as a political reality goes, I can see why a political party or a president or a leader might want to posit this as a goal to reach for. But as far as a realistic economic policy, I don't see it being very realistic.
So another side of this is, do you think tariffs are a sustainable revenue source for a country in general?
Yes, that's true. And they are a sustainable revenue source if they stay in place. Meaning, for many, many years after the Second World War, there were very few tariffs in the United States for incoming goods. So now that has changed. Could it change again? Of course it can. So the idea that you're going to have a steady stream into the future from a revenue source, meaning tariffs, that will remain unchanged, since Trump himself and his administration has used tariffs largely as a negotiating point to get other countries to change their tariff regimes, their import quotas, things like that. So if it is already in its current position being used as a negotiating tool, it's tough to believe that that will change in the future.
So you talk about tariffs being a negotiation tool. Can you elaborate on that? What is the fundamental purpose of tariffs? And can I ask you, if a government uses tariffs as the primary source of revenue for its spending, is that considered misusing tariffs or not?
Well, it depends on your judgment, I guess. If you are saying, to deal with the second question first, is replacing the income tax, meaning that Americans don't have to pay income tax, with an external source that is charged to foreigners, is that or potentially charged to foreigners, is that a misuse of tariffs? Well, I guess that depends on your point of view. I would say no, it's not necessarily a misuse of tariffs. After all, how the government generates revenue is open to all sorts of considerations, interpretations, and judgments, and that's not going to change. The reason I think that the administration, and this I agree with them on it, used tariffs as a negotiating tool was because before the Trump administration, at least this Trump administration, the tariff regime around the world with the United States was largely based on conditions that have long since disappeared. For the Europeans, they were based in rebuilding their economy after the Second World War. They were permitted to charge tariffs so they could rebuild their industrial base. For China, on the lead up into its membership into the World Trade Organization, and after that, it was granted tariffs so that it could develop its economy. Neither of these conditions in those two circumstances are still true. Europe does not need to develop its economy, and at least it doesn't need to develop it from the post-World War II disaster. And China is no longer a developing country. It is a fully fledged economic powerhouse with the second largest economy in the world. So the tariff regime that permitted these countries to charge the US tariffs when we did not charge their goods are no longer true. And that is the reason that Trump used tariffs on incoming goods to change that pattern.
All right, understood. Joseph, another topic I wanted to talk to you about today. Your thoughts on these Trump accounts where newborns will get a $1,000 deposit. How much money could this initial $1,000 turn into after 18 years?
After 18 years, you're going to probably, I don't know, depending on what the economy goes, you'll be at, I don't know, $10,000. That's a guess if it's 18 years. I do know that with the run of the stock market over the past 15 years, I can just speak from my own experience that my daughter's 529 accounts here in New York State have tripled in value in about 12 years. So there is a real potential for this. But again, remember, it's based on equities primarily because that's where your money is. Is this a good idea? Of course it's a good idea. How could it be a bad idea? But its value, I think, for the moment is, of course, political. but we are heading into an election year.
So do you think it's likely that parents will have to put additional contributions into the account to see a more meaningful amount of money?
Yes, the more money you put into an account like that, of course, the better it performs. Whether the terms of these accounts will require parents to put in a certain amount of money or have the government match it, I don't really know. I don't know the details are out on them. But just in general, an investment account is a good idea. There isn't really anything negative about it. And if the government is providing $1,000, that's $1,000 that some people won't have to provide.
Well, all right. That's it, Joseph, for today. Thank you for coming on, and always great to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Don. Always good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. All right, coming up, we have more news after this break. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
So Ariel, we made this here just for you. It has notes from other people that are here. Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms. Thank you. Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast? No thanks, we're good. They're always in their own world. How'd you get there? Twice the work. Twice the surprises. Just try it. But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling. I think you should ask her yourself.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
The Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, is stepping up its fight against drugs with the Fentanyl Free America initiative. This comes as DEA Administrator Terry Cole is touting the success of strikes on suspected drug boats. Cole told Fox News the strikes in the Caribbean are helping cut off the supply of illegal drugs into the country. He said they have seen changes to first stop loads, meaning cocaine is now more expensive when it arrives in the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico. The DEA has also launched its Fentanyl Free America plan. The department describes this as a comprehensive enforcement initiative and public awareness campaign. It's aimed at reducing both the supply and demand for fentanyl. Europe has decided to phase out Russian gas imports by 2027. The European Council today announced the agreement with the European Parliament, calling it a new era.
Today is indeed a historic day for our union. Last night, we reached a provisional agreement on the Commission's proposal to fully phase out Russian fossil fuels. We're turning that page, and we're turning it for good. This is the dawn of a new era, the era of Europe's full energy independence from Russia.
The agreement will include a legally binding stepwise prohibition on liquefied natural gas and pipeline gas imports from Russia. A full ban will take effect by the end of 2026 and autumn 2027, respectively. As of October, Russia accounted for 12% of EU gas imports, down from 45% before its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Hungary, France, and Belgium are among the countries still receiving Russian gas.
NATO foreign ministers are gathering in Brussels today for a one-day meeting. They're discussing the U.S. peace proposal to end the war in Ukraine and the alliance's support for the country. NATO chief Mark Rutte criticizes Russia for continuing the fighting while also provoking NATO.
Russia is also demonstrating increasingly reckless behavior when it comes to NATO, such as violating our airspace, conducting cyber attacks, and deploying spy ships to map allies' undersea infrastructure. These incidents underscore the need for unwavering vigilance.
Rutte says it's crucial that Western allies and partners increase the pressure on Russia amid the ongoing fighting. He adds that 2/3 of NATO member states have committed to support Ukraine with weapons through the so-called Prioritized Ukraine Requirements list. In total, the program received commitments worth $4 billion. This includes contributions from Australia and New Zealand, which aren't members of NATO. Taiwan is thankful and China is upset today after a move by President Trump. Trump signed into law new rules requiring the State Departments to regularly review and update guidelines and interactions with Taipei. It means the State Department should carry out reviews of contacts with Taiwan at least once every 5 years. Taiwan says the law stands as a firm symbol of the two countries' shared values of democracy, freedom, and respect for human rights. China says it opposes any form of official contact between the U.S. and, quote, the Taiwan region of China. Vaccine advisors to the CDC are considering a major change to the childhood vaccine schedule. The change would potentially delay a dose of the hepatitis B vaccine that newborns receive, or weeks, even by years.
The vaccine advisors are a group that was handpicked by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Earlier this year, Kennedy said that giving the hepatitis B vaccine to newborns is motivated by money, not health concerns. Infectious disease experts say it's key to preventing an illness that's easy to catch and impossible to cure. They say that delaying the vaccine for even a few months will drive up infections and deaths from the disease.
A doctor who pleaded guilty to selling ketamine to Matthew Perry in the weeks before his overdose death will be sentenced today. Perry's family and others will have a chance to make a statement in Los Angeles federal court. Prosecutors are asking the judge to sentence Dr. Salvador Placina to 3 years in prison. He has entered a plea agreement where he has to admit to illegally selling the Friends star large amounts of ketamine. He was not accused of selling the active dose that investigators say killed him on October 28th. Perry had been taking the surgical anesthetic legally as a treatment for depression. When his regular doctor wouldn't provide it in the amounts he wanted, Perry turned to Placencia. He admitted to illegally selling the drug to Perry despite knowing he was a recovering addict. A major winter storm is hitting the Northeast, bringing heavy snow, ice, and dangerous travel conditions. More than 50 million people are under winter weather alerts tonight. Snowfall totals could reach up to a foot in parts of the Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania, New York, and New England. The storm marks the region's first major blast of winter as snow, wind, and ice spread across the east. In West Virginia yesterday, vehicles struggled to stay on the road as slick conditions caused traffic problems. Forecasters warn more perilous conditions are on the way as colder air pushes into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The FBI is warning the public about possible charity fraud this holiday season. The Bureau says Americans looking to donate should be cautious. Here's more.
Officials urge the public to be alert to schemes that solicit donations. Scams tend to increase during national disasters, major emergencies, or whenever people are actively looking for ways to help the community. The FBI recommends that individuals only give to established charities or groups whose work they are familiar with and trust. Officials urge Americans who do donate to use a check or credit card. The FBI warns that if an organization asks for a donation using cash, gift card, virtual currency, or wire transfer, it's probably a scam. Any group can be researched through the Federal Trade Commission.
Researchers in Europe have discovered more than 60,000 miles of roads built by the Romans. Today, a new interactive map allows users to see how the ancient network connected the empire. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Satellite surveys, topographical maps, and software have revealed more of the Roman Empire. A new study published in journal Scientific Data shows the extent of Rome's roads and where they led. Lead author Tom Brugman says the traffic helped shape modern Europe.
We have long-distance trade, grain being produced in Egypt and being consumed in Rome, traded and transported over vast distances. We also have phenomena like Germanic tribes and their mass migration of Germanic peoples into the Western Roman Empire and contributing to its fall in the 5th century.
Brugmans explains how the Romans were able to take control of and improve the routes.
It conquered areas that were already densely urbanized with a vast net of existing roads. The Romans continued to use them. They upgraded them. An important contribution by the Romans is that they connected up all of those local road systems.
The Roman Empire covered more than 1.5 million square miles. Its road network would connect its far-flung corners.
So for the very first time, it was possible to move overland from Syria to Spain, for example, these vast distances. It was truly the first continental-scale terrestrial transport infrastructure.
A new high-resolution digital data set and map covers roads throughout the Roman Empire. Brugmans hopes people are interested to learn more about their connections to the ancient civilization.
It's kind of like a GPS, like a Google Maps of the ancient world. What I want people to do is explore it, see where their house is, see where the nearest Roman road is.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The trash panda is living up to its name. Just listen to this story out of Virginia. Officers were called to a liquor store in Hanover County after the place was found ransacked. Liquor bottles strewn about and the masked suspect passed out on the bathroom floor. And that suspect is a very drunk raccoon. Just look at him laying on the ground there. An officer was able to get him to an animal shelter where he was checked out for injuries and given a chance to sleep off his libatons. He was then released back into the wild. That raccoon had too much to drink. Okay, taking a break. Assaults against law enforcement officers are at a 10-year high. Lawmakers are examining the role anti-law enforcement rhetoric has on the rise in violence against officials. Stay tuned for more after this break.
If you're out there and you're watching this message, we need your help and we need it now. This is a typical day at the outpatient department. Every day we see very many cases of children with severe pneumonia. All these children need to be seen and they all need to be seen today. This is baby Priscilla. She's 7 months old. When a child has pneumonia, you really need to move quick. This is like an infection in the baby's lungs. It really hurts for this child to be breathing. It feels like someone is squeezing your chest. If Priscilla doesn't get antibiotic treatment, it could lead to death.
We need your support right now to help save children's lives like Priscilla's. Please call or go online to givetosave.org and give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. You can help us provide life-saving medicines, food, and essentials to children in the most need.
The problem we have is we simply do not have enough medicine. It's very heartbreaking to see a child suffer like this.
Please help children like Priscilla before it's too late. All we need are 1,000 monthly donors. Please call or go online with your monthly gift of just $10, only 33 cents a day. Your donation today can help secure additional grants, which can multiply the impact of your support up to 10 times. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
With your help, we can save more lives. So please help us.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child survives. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
I trod on my glasses yesterday, and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way, and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options, only at selectspecs.com.
This is pho-licious. Now, what is pho? It's an authentic Vietnamese noodle dish. The pho-licious chicken pho brings the comforting, aromatic flavors of Vietnam to your bowl, and Mama Thu's signature spice blend. Well, this chicken pho is as close to homemade as it gets without the wait. Some cubed chicken, a little lime, and then the magic moment. See you soon, my friends.
Pho-licious is now available at your local Walmart or walmart.com.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump pardons Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife, and Trump will soon announce new fuel economy standards alongside top executives from Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. In a lawsuit filed yesterday, the Justice Department is pushing back on 6 states that refuse to disclose the voter registration rolls. Republican Matt Van Apps wins Tennessee's special House election. Meanwhile, Democrat Mayra Marcias launches an independent campaign for a congressional seat in Chicago. Assaults against law enforcement officers are at a 10-year high. Lawmakers are examining the role anti-law enforcement rhetoric has on the rise in violence against officials. The day after a meeting in Moscow, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the peace process is moving forward. What the Kremlin says when asked whether Russian President Putin rejected a U.S. peace proposal.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for staying with us. President Trump pardons Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife Imelda. Cuellar was
President Trump today is pardoning Texas Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar and his wife Imelda. Cuellar was an outspoken critic of former President Joe Biden's border policies before the couple was indicted back in May 2024 for allegedly accepting nearly $600,000 in bribes in exchange for influencing U.S. foreign policy in favor of Azerbaijan and a Mexican bank. Cuellar, however, has denied all of these charges. And President Trump announcing a, quote, full and unconditional pardon of the Cuellars on Truth Social, says, quote, for years, the Biden administration weaponized the justice system against their political opponents and anyone who disagreed with them. He goes on to say that one of the clearest examples of this was when Biden, quote, used the FBI and DOJ to take out a member of his own party after Cuellar, quote, bravely spoke out against open borders and what President Trump calls the Biden border catastrophe. He says that because of those facts and others, he is hereby announcing his full and unconditional pardon of the Cuellars. President Trump attaches to that post a letter from the Cuellars' 2 daughters pleading for their parents' clemency, calling them individuals, honest individuals, and good, decent people. Cuellar responds by thanking President Trump for what he calls his, quote, tremendous leadership and for taking the time to look at the facts. He also thanks God and says that this pardon will allow his family to start over with a clean slate. Don?
You know, definitely interesting choice by the president, and maybe even unusual for a Republican president to pardon a sitting Democratic member of Congress. Well, Mari, what can we expect from President Trump's Oval Office announcement this afternoon?
Sure, Nan. So President Trump, in just a little while, is slated to unveil what the White House is calling a historic reset of federal fuel standards and to tout $109 billion in energy savings. President Trump is expected to be joined in the Oval Office by top executives from Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. The White House says that it will be rolling back what it calls aggressive reforms that were enacted under Obama and tightened under Biden, with the administration saying that these Biden-era regulations would have increased the cost of a new car by more than $1,000 relative to these newer standards that they're ushering in today. This comes as President Trump more broadly is making a messaging push toward affordability. Here he is in his cabinet meeting yesterday. Take a look.
But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. They say it and then they go into the next subject and everyone thinks, oh, they had lower prices. No, they had the worst inflation in the history of our country.
So the president is trying to get Republicans to reclaim the messaging on affordability ahead of the 2026 midterm elections, saying that he inherited the, quote, a worst inflation ever from his predecessor. And Vice President J.D. Vance and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent are also telling Americans to hold on and be patient, to wait until 2026, as that will be the year when Americans really see the effects of the Trump administration's economic agenda. Take a look.
I think for congressional Democrats in particular, if they want to talk about affordability, they ought to look in the mirror. We are fixing what they're broken. We're proud to do it. It's the job that we were elected to do. But I think 2026 is going to be the year where this economy really takes off.
So as a result, in 2026, we are going to see very substantial tax refunds in the first quarter. So the best way to address the affordability crisis is to give Americans more money in their pockets, which is what this bill has done. We're going to see real wage increases. I think next year is going to be a fantastic year. Taxes, deregulation, energy certainty.
And President Trump, meanwhile, continues to tout deals that lower health care costs. And yesterday, the president suggested that income tax could be completely eliminated in the next couple of years due to what he calls massive tariff revenue. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you. President Trump says he is nullifying every document former President Biden approved using what he calls an auto pen. He announced yesterday all auto pen signed executive actions under Biden are now void and without legal effect. Trump also said pardons, commutations, or any legal papers signed in that way are terminated. He says the move follows his earlier decision to revoke all auto pen signed executive orders from the Biden years. Trump says that Biden wasn't personally involved in approving these signatures, and aides misused the process. A congressional investigation concluded senior officials abused auto pen authority and couldn't prove Biden authorized any key actions. Former special counsel Jack Smith has been called to appear before the House Judiciary Committee. In a letter, Chairman Jim Jordan told Smith this is over the prosecution of President Trump. Smith investigated President Trump for allegedly meddling in the 2020 election. He eventually brought criminal charges against Trump. One is related to the election, another for allegedly mishandling classified documents. Both cases were dropped after Trump won re-election. The subpoena also demands all documents and communications related to Smith's time as special counsel. Smith is expected to appear on December 17th. The Trump administration is pausing immigration applications for individuals from 19 countries. That's according to a policy memo from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services.
White House hit pause on all immigration applications for people from Somalia and 18 other non-European countries, citing national security and public safety concerns. The official memorandum outlining the new policy points to recent crimes suspected to be committed by immigrants, including the deadly attack on U.S. National Guard members in Washington last week. An Afghan man was arrested as a suspect, and Afghanistan is also on the list. Trump promised a flurry of restrictions after the National Guard attack.
It was a crime against our entire nation.
Most of the countries targeted were slapped with severe immigration restrictions in June, including Afghanistan, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Myanmar, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, while Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela were subjected to partial restrictions. The new policy places a hold on pending applications, including green card and U.S. citizenship processing. It also orders all immigrants from the list of countries to be re-reviewed, which involves, quote, a potential interview and, if necessary, a re-interview to fully assess all national security and public safety threats.
Federal authorities launched a new immigration enforcement operation today in New Orleans. Tricia McLaughlin, DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, previewed the operation during an interview with CNN this morning.
Catalina Crunch, which we are launching today down in New Orleans, we're first and foremost really focusing on those worst of the worst criminals, those criminals who have previously been locked up by local authorities, but then because New Orleans functions as a sanctuary city, those individuals were not released to ICE. They were instead released back onto New Orleans streets. So we're talking about child pedophiles who are on our list of targets, burglars, gang members, rapists. Those individuals we are highly targeting And we will continue whether it be 5,000 arrests or beyond.
DHS says the targets include illegal immigrants released after arrest. Their crimes include home invasion, armed robbery, grand theft auto, and rape. The full scope of the operation hasn't been detailed. Officials previously expected to run through the end of the year, with a brief slowdown around Christmas. President Trump said yesterday the National Guard will be deployed to the city in the coming weeks. The Democratic-run city is the latest location added to the administration's stepped-up enforcement efforts. It follows recent actions in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, is stepping up its fight against drugs with the Fentanyl Free America initiative. This comes as DEA Administrator Terry Cole is touting the success of strikes on suspected drug boats. Cole told Fox News the strikes in the Caribbean are helping cut off the supply of illegal drugs into the country. He said they have seen changes to first stop loads, meaning cocaine is now more expensive when it arrives in the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico. The DEA has also launched its Fentanyl Free America plan. The department describes this as a comprehensive enforcement initiative and public awareness campaign. It's aimed at reducing both the supply and demand for fentanyl. The Trump administration continues to limit U.S. visas for certain foreign nationals. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced today that there will be consequences for those who persecute people of faith. In a post on X, he said, quote, "The State Department will restrict U.S. visas for those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, to support, or carry out violations of religious freedom. This visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people for their religious beliefs." Rubio said this policy is in response to atrocities and violence against Christians in Nigeria. So far, it's unclear what other governments or individuals are targeted. 2025 has seen a dramatic increase in violence against law enforcement across the country. Lawmakers examined the role that anti-law enforcement rhetoric plays on the increase in violence. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Eduardo Martinez, has more on this story.
Today's hearing is not about silencing dissent or restricting free speech. It is about responsibility and recognizing that rhetoric has consequences and ensuring that officers can perform their duties without fear.
In 2024, the FBI reported more than 85,000 assaults on law enforcement officers, the highest number in over a decade. And in 2025 alone, Immigration and Customs Enforcement registered an increase of 1,100% of assaults against its officers.
Federal officers remain unwavering in their oath to the Constitution and their duty to enforce the laws Congress enacts, regardless of the political environment. What has changed is the environment in which they serve. It has grown increasingly hostile with rising violence, threats, and online harassment directed at officers.
Experts in today's hearing singled out polarizing rhetoric against the duties of law enforcement as the main cause for increase in assaults against law enforcement officers.
The rhetoric coming from the top, calling officers Nazis and Gestapo, it better stop right now. You are inflaming dangerous circumstances. A job that is to enforce the laws of this country, the laws that have been passed by those that have been elected by the people of this country.
According to the FBI, 1/3 of cop killers self-identifies with the narratives that portrays law enforcement as the villain.
That narrative, used for political gain, is amplified across social media platforms and other means, and it all too often goes unchallenged. And it's not harmless rhetoric, it is fuel. We have seen this fuel ignite in cities and towns, large and small, all across America.
Democratic lawmakers did not invite an expert for today's hearing, but a private citizen who launched attacks on the Trump administration.
The fact of the matter is that right now, in the United States of America, there is a semi-secret police force abducting people based on the color of their skin and sending many of them via state-sponsored human trafficking to extraterritorial concentration camps.
Today's hearing comes 1 week after 2 National Guardsmen were shot in Washington, D.C. One of them, Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, died from her wounds, and the other remains in serious conditions. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
The Justice Department sued 6 more states yesterday for refusing to respond to a request for statewide voter registration rules. That brings the number of states sued to at least 14. NTD's Arlene Richards has more details.
The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division announced on Tuesday that lawsuits had been filed against 6 more states for failure to disclose voter registration rolls. The states this time include Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. In the lawsuit, the department accuses the states of failing to maintain accurate voter rolls and make those records available for inspection. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement that the states had fallen into a pattern of noncompliance and that the law requires them to comply with basic voter roll maintenance. This latest action brings the total to at least 14 states the department has sued in an effort to obtain voter information. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon of the department's Civil Rights Division said our federal elections laws ensure every American citizen may vote freely and fairly. Representatives from the 6 states have not officially commented on the lawsuit. In September, Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs responded to a letter from the DOJ requesting the voter registration list. He said, while we will provide the DOJ with the voter registration data that state law already makes public, we will not compromise the privacy of Washington voters. The DOJ sued Maine and Oregon in September over voter registration rolls. At that time, Maine's Secretary of State Shenna Bellows said she didn't trust what the Trump administration would do with the personal voter information. In the announcement of the latest lawsuits, Attorney General Pam Bondi said accurate voter rolls are the cornerstone of fair and free elections. She said the department will continue filing election integrity litigation until states comply. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
A day after a meeting in Moscow, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is making progress in parts of the peace process to end the war in Ukraine. Also, the Kremlin responds to questions on whether Russian President Putin rejected a U.S. peace proposal. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has the latest.
What we have tried to do, and I think have made some progress, is figure out what can the Ukrainians live with that gives them security guarantees for the future. They're never going to be invaded again.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio telling Fox News that security guarantees are a major part of the ongoing peace process, not just to prevent another invasion, but to make sure Ukraine can also rebuild its economy once the fighting stops. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Russian President Putin in Moscow on Tuesday, but the meeting ultimately produced no direct results. The Kremlin describes the talks as constructive, while adding that compromises had not yet been found. But Russia denies reports saying that Putin rejected a 28-point peace plan put forward by the U.S.
No, it's not correct. Some things were accepted, others were marked as unacceptable. This is a normal working process, a search for compromise.
And Ukraine confirms that the U.S. delegation entered in contact after the Moscow meeting. But Kiev wasn't briefed on the details during that conversation.
Since this was a telephone contact for security reasons, it is difficult to imagine that the details of the Moscow meeting were discussed.
But the spokesman added that the American side said the Putin meeting helped steer the process in the right direction. And NATO wants to increase pressure on Russia. 2/3 of NATO member states have committed to support Ukraine with weapons through the so-called Prioritized Ukraine Requirement List, or PEARL in short. In total, the program received commitments worth $4 billion. This includes contributions from Australia and New Zealand, which are not members of NATO. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Coming up, Republican Matt Van Epps wins Tennessee special House election. Meanwhile, Democrat Mayra Marciez launches an independent campaign for a congressional seat in Chicago. Stay with us for more after this break.
Now's the time to get your home ready for hosting with the holiday savings event at Mathis Home. They have over 100 dining sets in stock with the styles you like at incredible values. This set is a great deal. You get the contemporary trestle table and 4 comfy side chairs, all 5 pieces for just $6.99. And you don't have to wait. With fast and easy financing and free delivery, you can enjoy your new dining set tonight. Get the lowest prices of the year during the holiday savings event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gone Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Republican Matt Van Epps has won Tennessee's special election in the 7th Congressional District. The former state commissioner and Army helicopter pilot defeated Democrat Afton Ben with just over 53% of the vote, according to the Associated Press. Ben finished with roughly 46%. Van Epps said his victory sent a loud and clear message that the people of Tennessee stand with President Trump. Here's more.
Our victory was powered by supporters of President Trump turning out to vote. The president built the largest, most diverse coalition to ever elect a Republican, and we leaned in on that. President Trump was all in with us, and it made the difference. In Congress, I'll be all in with him. Thank you. Thank you.
President Trump reacted on Truth Social, congratulating Epps, saying, quote, "The radical left Democrats threw everything at him, including millions of dollars." On Monday, Van Epps headlined a rally which featured House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senator Marsha Blackburn. Trump also called into a Monday rally. On the Democrat side, former Vice President Al Gore and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stumped for Ben. Millions of dollars were poured into both campaigns. Van Epps will represent 14 counties in Middle Tennessee, filling the seat vacated by Congressman Mark Green. The win helps Republicans maintain their narrow House majority leading into 2026. Ben conceded last night, crediting volunteers for keeping the race close.
President Trump tells Americans his tariffs will save them massive tax dollars next year, doubling down on his proposal to give out dividend checks. Listen to what he had to say.
They told me that next year is projected to be the largest tax refund season ever. And we're going to be giving back refunds out of the tariffs because we've taken in literally trillions of dollars. And we're going to be giving a nice dividend to the people in addition to reducing debt.
The president also spoke about lowering taxes to the point that many could pay very little for income tax or eventually having no income tax at all due to how much money the country is making from his tariff policies. Any changes to the tax code will need approval from Congress. NTD spoke to several Republican lawmakers to get a sense for how they feel about the dividend checks. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
If the president wants to realize this goal of sending $2,000 dividend checks to American families, Congress will need to sign off on it. But it appears right now that most Republicans are undecided as to whether or not they would support this. One Republican Senator, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, said that any revenue that is gained from tariffs should be used to pay down the national debt. Yesterday, I asked several lawmakers on the House side how they feel about such an idea. Many of them told me they need to wait and see how the numbers add up. What are your thoughts on President Trump's idea to give $2,000 dividend checks to people from the tariff revenues that he's raking in right now?
Well, I think people would welcome that, and I think that people need to understand that the tariffs are a tool in the tool chest the president is using to negotiate trade deals. That's the most significant thing, because he has negotiated a number of great trade deals.
I'm not sure. We have to really look at that. That has to be something that we have to really think through.
It's something I need to learn more about. First time in a decade, we actually have more money than we're spending out, because President Trump's decisions are slowly but surely turning the tide. Now, we got a long ways to go, but I think he's a great president. He's making a lot of progress.
Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson previously said he thinks this is a good idea, but he also says he needs to wait and see how the math looks next year.
He's thinking about something maybe midway into next year, when the tariff revenue is realized and we can figure out what that looks like.
Considering Republicans' slim majority in Congress, there will need to be significant, if not entire, Republican support for this in order for it to get through Congress if all Democrats are opposing it. But I think what could help Trump get Republicans on board with this is if they see the tariffs consistently raking in a substantial amount of revenue, and of course the pressure could continue to grow if Trump keeps tightening up on this request. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
A major winter storm is hitting the Northeast, bringing heavy snow, ice, and dangerous travel conditions. More than 50 million people are under winter weather alerts tonight. Snowfall totals could reach up to a foot in parts of the Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania, New York, and New England. The storm marks the region's first major blast of winter as snow, wind, and ice spread across the east. In West Virginia yesterday, vehicles struggled to stay on the road as slick conditions caused traffic problems. Forecasters warn more perilous conditions are on the way as colder air pushes into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The FBI is warning the public about possible charity fraud this holiday season. The Bureau says Americans looking to donate should be cautious. Here's more.
Officials urge the public to be alert to schemes that solicit donations. Scams tend to increase during national disasters, major emergencies, or whenever people are actively looking for ways to help the community. The FBI recommends that individuals only give to established charities or groups whose work they are familiar with and trust. Officials urge Americans who do donate to use a check or credit card. The FBI warns that if an organization asks for a donation using cash, gift card, virtual currency, or wire transfer, it's probably a scam. Any group can be researched through the Federal Trade Commission.
President Trump is making an announcement now. He's going to unveil a reset of federal fuel standards that heightened under the Biden administration. It's projected to save $109 billion in total for American families. Let's hear what he has to say.
American history, the Green New scam, and it's a quest to end the gasoline-powered car. This is what they wanted to do, even though we have more gasoline than any other country by far. And people want the gasoline car. They want everything. They want electric. They want to have lots of alternatives, but they do want the gasoline car. Right now, it's leading away by a lot. The car business is a very interesting business, but we want to keep it that way. I want to thank Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Deputy Transportation Secretary Stephen Bradbury, as well as CEO of Ford, Jim Farley. Jim, where is Jim? Let's see. Hi, Jim. Congratulations. You're doing a great job. CEO of Stellantis, Antonio Filosa. Thank you very much, Antonio. Chairman of the National Automobile Dealers Association, Tom Castrida.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Tom. Great to have you. And Manager of General Motors Orient Plant, John Urbanek.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Great to have you guys here. And you're going to say a few words in a minute about how ridiculous this was, but we've just freed you up. So you're going to have a good day and have a good number of years. Thanks as well to Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Ted Cruz, Kevin Cramer, Marsha Blackburn, Eric Schmidt and Bernie Moreno, as well as Representatives Sam Graves, Vern Buchanan, Mike Kelly, Roger Williams, Lisa McClain, and Troy Balderson. All great people. These are great people. And I know there's a lot of support long beyond the people that are here. We had tremendous support on this. From day one, I've been taking action to make buying a car more affordable. I signed an executive order to end the unfair, expensive electric vehicle mandate, as you know, where you had to have an electric car within a very short period of time, even though there was no way of charging them and lots of other things. It would have cost $5 trillion to build the charging plants. And as you know, in certain parts of the Midwest, they spent, to build 9 chargers, they spent $8 billion. So that wasn't working out too well. That was done before me, by the way. I wouldn't have let it go forward. We're canceling the EPA's absurd tailpipe emission standards, one of the most important things that I've never had a group of people come to me more powerfully and really just devastated that they had to do it. It was killing them than the automobile manufacturers, the tailpipe emission standards. And I can tell you, your people at Ford were coming to me all the time, and they were saying, like, please, it doesn't do anything, and it's killing us. And it's driving the cost through the roof. And we revoked Biden's emissions waiver for California so that California communists could not regulate the automobile industry and ruin the entire nation of automobiles. And they were doing that, too. But we have that now under control also with your governor, who's got much more than he can control. Now, under the new rules being issued today by Secretary Duffy, the Department of Transportation will rescind the Biden fuel economy prices. And I hate to say that because they were really not economy. They were really, they were anti-economy. They were horrible what they were doing to the costs and actually making the car much worse. But these policies forced automakers to build cars using expensive technologies that drove up costs, drove up prices, and made the car much worse. The action is expected to save the typical consumer at least $1,000 off the price of a new car, and we think substantially more than that. Under the Trump administration, $70 billion are now being invested in the American auto industry. Ford has announced it will invest $5 billion across its Kentucky and Michigan plants. Is that a correct statement?
That's right.
That's a lot, $5 billion. You could do more. Creating at least 4,000 new jobs. Stellantis announced that it will invest $13 billion to expand its U.S.-based manufacturing by more than 50% and open new manufacturing facilities across the country. And I think a big part of that is also the tariffs. Because of tariffs, they're coming in. Not only the automobile industry, AI, we're leading China in AI, we're leading everybody in AI, we're leading everybody in everything. We have the hottest country right now. I will tell you, a lot of political people behind me, great political people, very successful political people. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. 1 year ago, we had a dead country, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And it started from November 5th, but it also started when we did the tariffs, and we've had tremendous support on the tariffs. It's bringing in trillions of dollars of wealth. It's bringing in national security. And I've stopped 8 wars, and of the 8 wars, 5 of them have been because of tariffs and trade. So they're very important. And General Motors plans to invest $4 billion as it brings its manufacturing back to the United States from Mexico. After falling by 5% under Biden, U.S. auto production has surged by 10% so far this year. You know, I won the auto workers vote, but now even the head of the auto workers said Trump is the greatest president we've ever seen. And he happens to be right about that. But we're protecting our auto workers, and we're making it easier for every family to afford high-quality cars. In other words, we're bringing automobiles back and the manufacturing of automobiles back into this country. We lost 52% over the years, 52% of our automobile manufacturing. You see it, closed factories all over the place. Now they're all opening up. They're being, in most cases, they're being knocked down, and new ones are being built in their place. And a big beneficiary is the state of Michigan, but South Carolina, even states that didn't really do too much with the automobiles, they're opening up plants. It's been amazing. So between automobile plants, AI plants, and plants of every other nation, really every other type, including chips, we're going to have a big percentage of the chip market very soon. Not because of the CHIPS Act, which was horrible and ridiculous, where we just gave these companies billions and billions of dollars, and they just kept the money, but because of what we did with tariffs. They have to build here, otherwise they're going to have to pay tariffs. They won't be able to do business in the United States. And we're going to have a big percentage of the chip industry. As of about a year ago, 2 years ago, we had none. And now we're going to have a very big percentage when it all finishes out. So I'd like to ask Secretary Duffy to speak, and then Mr. Farley, and then Filosa, and Urbanik, and Castrita. And also, we're going to ask some of our political leaders to speak, because let me tell you, they went out of their way. This was not easy. People were brainwashed. This is a green new scam. And people were paying too much for a car that didn't work as well. And now they're going to have a great car that's going to be environmentally friendly, but it's going to cost you a lot less, and it's going to work great. All of the nonsense is being taken out of the cars. So, Secretary Duffy, could you say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. President. So yesterday at the cabinet meeting, the president was talking about affordability, and the way that Democrats talk about affordability is a lie. Today is a perfect example of that. So these CAFE standards used what was contrary to the law. The Congress set a rule that says you have to look at combustion engines. Biden and Buttigieg actually did an analysis using... Buttigieg, I'm sorry. Buttigieg used EVs and hybrids to come up with a 62 mile an hour per gallon standard, which I think the car companies will tell you is completely unattainable. So they spent a lot of money on technology trying to meet the unattainable standard, driving up the cost of a car, number one. And then number two, if they couldn't meet the unattainable standard, they had to trade for carbon, costing billions of dollars, and again, driving up the price of the car. So, Mr. President, what Democrats were doing were not making cars more affordable, they're making them less affordable. The consequence of that is going to be that more Americans can afford to buy a new car, which means they're going to be safer on the roads because of all the great new technology we have that save lives. So we'll have less death on American roads. These rules are going to allow the automakers to make vehicles that Americans want to purchase, not vehicles that Joe Biden and Buttigieg wants them to build, which is important. But also, this is important for American jobs. The more cars we sell, the more jobs we have in this country. And so this is jobs, this is freedom, and this is common sense, Mr. President. So thank you for your leadership. And I appreciate what the Senate did with the big, beautiful bill and what we've done here today. So thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. A big, beautiful bill is it's something. It's amazing. Wait till the people see the benefits and the lower taxes that they're going to have, lower regulations. So, how about Ford?
Mr. President and Secretary, all the important lawmakers here, competitors, today is a victory of common sense and affordability. We're very proud of Ford to be the #1 auto producer in our country. 80% of the vehicles we sell here we make in our country.
Right.
And we never left, unlike many of our competitors. We're the #1 exporter, and we have the most auto factory workers. And this CAFE standard that is aligned with customer demand is the right move for a lot of reasons. We were #2 last year in EV sales, we were #3 in hybrid, and we're the leading brand for combustion. We believe that people should be able to make a choice, as you said, Mr. President, and we will invest more in affordable vehicles. This allows us to invest in affordable vehicles made in the U.S., which we will take the lead on, and will allow us to make vehicles more affordable. So thank you for making this step for all of you.
Thank you very much. One of the other things we're doing, it's separate from this meeting, but I think everybody here would agree with it. If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute. And I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy, they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job. but we're not allowed to make them in this country, and I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Well, no, just that he never stops working, so even when he's on Asian time, he's calling me at midnight in the States. But he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive, and it really gives people a chance to have a car, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great. And so you car companies start thinking about that. I think it's going to be a tremendous market. Please, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day for us at Stellantis today, because it's the day where we see CAFE regulation reconciled with real customers' demand. That's why at Stellantis we decided to invest to Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler $13 billion in the next 4 years, increasing production by 50%, delivering to the market 5 new vehicles, and creating 5,000 additional jobs. That's because we believe in what you, Secretary Duffy, and all your team is doing in this country. We believe in growth, and we are ready to invest even more. So thank you very much. Thank you very much also for this great news of the K cars, which we are very interested in. And we are very looking forward to work with Secretary Duffy, your team, in the future for the next steps. Thank you very much.
Well, get ready for those cars because we've already cleared the way. You can start right away.
We will. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
We support your leadership for this issue that is so important to the auto industry. I'm here representing the hard-working men and women of Orion Assembly in Michigan.
Right.
The facility, our manufacturing facility there, is currently going through a retool so that we can build additional U.S. manufactured pickup trucks and full-size sport utilities for our customers, and we're so excited about that. And thank you for your support. Secretary Duffy, thank you as well.
And this is largely coming in because of the tariff situation. We're taking in trillions of dollars, actually, trillions, and we have so many other advantages. But these great companies are coming back to the United States. They left the United States. If somebody was sitting behind this desk that knew what they were doing, that wouldn't have happened. They would have said, well, you can sell your car here, but we're going to put 100% tariff, and you would have never had the auto industry leave. Again, we lost more than 50% of our auto industry. And now it's all coming back, and I think it's coming back. Ultimately, it's going to be bigger. I believe it's going to be bigger than it was before, actually. But it's an honor to have you here, and please, would you like to say something?
President,
thank you very much.
Tom Castriota, sir. I'm the chairman of National Automobile Dealers that represent 18,000 dealers in the country, along with 3,000 heavy-duty truck dealers. And what the actions that you've done as the president and your administration is definitely going to save our customers money. And you made your promises that let the consumer buy what they want, sir, and you delivered on that. And the other thing that you delivered was your promise in the big, beautiful bill, the tax deduction on loans that had gone away some years back. And now that makes it affordable for our buyers that can save money through that loan of the tax, anywhere from several hundred to several thousand. So again, sir, on behalf of all the dealers and our customers, we appreciate what you and your administration have done, and of course our legislative support as well, Mr. President.
Thank you. That's very nice, and I'm glad you brought that up. We're allowing people to deduct. So if you go out and buy a car, and this is for middle income, but for lower income, no matter what, they never really had deductions. You know, rich people like deductions, but middle income people were never really afforded deductions, which is very unfair. You borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct the interest from your income tax. And I think that's going to be one of the most, in terms of your industry, I think it's going to be the biggest thing that we're talking about, maybe even bigger than CAFE standards. People are going to be able to borrow money, deduct it, so it's going to cost them essentially half. And
it'll help, yes, sir.
I think it's going to be a tremendous factory. They've never had a chance to do that before. And that's all done. That's all in the great, big, beautiful bill. So it's really terrific. I'd like to ask a couple of our political leaders to say, because you guys have done an amazing job. This was something that was going to be very tough. We had to fight lunatics to get it done, and they had no answers. You know, you just present them with the facts, and they just say, well, we're just not going to vote for it. They couldn't talk about it, but they didn't want to vote. I see Mike Kelly, my friend back there, has been with me from day one, right?
Yep.
What do you have to say, Mike?
Well, you know what? I think you hit the key. Everybody's talking about the same thing. In America,
Look at the way they like each other. Now, you can see, there's no hatred between these two guys.
No, as long as I beat his price, we're friends. No, but you hit it on the head. The American people have always been able to choose what they want to buy.
Right.
They don't want to be taken out of a market by people who, quite frankly, don't even drive their own car, and saying this is the way you've got to go going into the future. And say, well, you may say that, but you're not in the market. You have no idea. And I know the business we're in. At the end of the day, if you were there with me, I'd say, oh, so, Mr. President, other than price, what's keeping you from taking the car home today? It's always price. And the fact that we can build a car that's affordable, that people want to buy, that's the key to it. What you've done is unlock the most ridiculous statute that ever came in with CAFE. It wasn't done by the Congress. It wasn't done. It was done by President Obama after the courts failed on it. So thank you for doing what you're doing. You're making America great again in every single way. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be so big for the auto manufacturers. People aren't even going to believe the impact this has. You know, Mike used to come to my rallies all the time, and we'd have a rally, and it was like 0 degrees. It was freezing everywhere, and he'd sit there without a shirt on. And I didn't need that, you know. I didn't say it was pretty, but he would sit there in the cold, and he didn't mind it at all. I said, that's one tough cookie, right?
You lit it up. We didn't need any heat. You were there.
We had a good time. We had a lot of great rallies,
We
right?
did. We did.
Pennsylvania. Please, Mr. Congressman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I represent the dealer body. I'm a dealer, and we got some other dealers in here, but this is huge for the dealer body, the local car dealer. We're going to be able to sell what the customer wants. The manufacturer's going to make what the customer wants. We've got all kinds of options to the big bill. It's going to enable people, as we talked about, to deduct payments and so forth. As we say in the business, they've never been cheaper than they are today, Mr. President. And it's going to be a great opportunity for the dealer body to sell what consumers want. And 99% of the businesses in America are small businesses. Many are car dealers, employ a lot of people. It's going to be a great year for us. We appreciate your leadership, and we appreciate, from a retail standpoint, we appreciate the manufacturers going to step up and build cars that customers want and that we want to sell. So thank you very much. It makes it a great country.
He's also a very brave congressman because he was there on the baseball field that horrible day with Steve Scalise and some other people. He was hit. But he took it very well. He took it very well. You're my pal.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great job.
Appreciate you.
Great job. Appreciate it. Kevin, could you say a few words of wisdom? One of the really smart economic forecasters, I will tell you. Beyond an economist, he's a real forecaster. Please.
Sir, I think that there's a massive macroeconomic benefit to what we're doing today. And the way to think about it is that the car that has the best gas mileage that you could buy that has only gasoline is a Honda that gets about 36 miles per gallon. Joe Biden wanted to make every car on average be above 50. So there's no car made in the US that you would be able to sell 2 years from now, 3 years from now under that rule. Because what he wanted to do was make everybody have an electric car, as you know. But here's the thing, that if everybody had an electric car, then nobody would be buying gasoline anymore, and they'd have to take all the miles that they travel and put it on the grid. And so we would have to increase the production of electricity in the US by 25% over the next couple of years if they had their way. And so you've really stopped a massive disruption for the economy with this. And so thank you, sir.
That wasn't the main reason, and yet it certainly is a main reason. You wouldn't have been able to do it even if you wanted it. It's just so crazy. That was the mandate, which we ended. Troy, would you like to say something?
Great honor, thank you. My family is a former dealer, 48 years, Chrysler Dodge dealer, and then I got into the political world, sir. Yeah. I had more fun in the dealership world, but I miss it, but I still play a big role in automobiles and grateful. I remember under President Obama when the CAFE standards changed, as Mike brought up, and going through those challenging times. As a Chrysler dealer before Stellantis came along, it was Daimler before you guys got it. So thank you very much for being here and making these changes. And as you said, that interest on the car loan piece was big. And I know that Bernie led the charge on that in the Senate and get it into one big, beautiful bill. That really is a big deal, and people need to understand how big a deal that is.
They did a great job. And by the way, we had a great victory last night.
Kind of like our race, huh?
He's going to be a great congressman. I think so. Really, like us, right?
Yeah, like us.
One of my early endorsements, right?
Yes, sir.
Can we talk about it? You're right there is a man. Come in. Let me say hello to you. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. But the thing I've admired most, you've been in business, you've been in the battles over the years, and you're helping us lead us out. Most people that are up here have no idea about business or small business. It makes a big difference. One is. Number two is, I would just say in terms of the tax stuff we're talking about, one of the things that get missed, and I'm in Florida, Sarasota region, is the ability to deduct. Most people have a small business, they'll have a lawn business, they'll have this, that, they buy a new or used truck. They can take that deduction, let's say they're in a 20% tax bracket, but the vehicle's 60 grand, they can take 20% of the 60 grand, get a $12,000 write-off. They can pay their payments for the first year. That's a powerful tool we don't talk about, I don't know why, but at the end of the day, because of what you've put in place, full expensing, that's the tool that it would use. And you could just think about all the people in Florida, just general places, they're buying old vans or new vans, they're buying trucks, mainly trucks, and they're getting a deduction. They don't even have a payment for a year.
That's right.
So it's one of the best things for
One
Florida.
of the biggest things in the bill.
Expensing is a powerful tool. They can write the whole asset off the first year, take that deduction, put $12,000 in their pocket on a $20,000. Well, let me mention one other thing. They got into the e-vehicles, electric cars, and I'm talking to dealers that come in and talk to me, and basically they couldn't sell one, they couldn't give one away. And when these companies, or they got in because of whatever political pressure under Biden administration, and they end up realizing that they got no market. A guy says, the car's been sitting there a year, I can't get rid of it. So they don't understand the market. The people produce the vehicles, and that's made a big difference in your leadership. But thanks for what you're doing here today. It's big, it's huge, it'll make a big difference. $12,000 on a $60,000 vehicle up front, day one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, we're just talking about something that's interesting. Ford would make, and I don't want to speak for Ford because we have one of the top people right here.
Mr. President, it's fine if you want to talk about Ford.
Ford would make numerous electric cars in order to sell one Ford 150. Yes. Because they'd make all their money with the 150.
Yes.
And they were willing to lose money on building 2 or 3 electric cars that they couldn't sell in order to make some money on the 150, because the 150 is a monster. I'll tell you what, that no matter where you go, they love that Ford 150.
Yes.
But isn't it a ridiculous model when you have to build 2 or 3 cars that you know you're not going to be selling or not be selling for much in order to really do something that you should have the right to do, which is make a car that you want to make.
Yes.
And that the market wants, right? So congratulations on the 150.
Thank you. Best-selling vehicle in the United States.
Just saying.
Now it's 100% built in the United States.
Now it's only going to do. No, but it really is. It's amazing. It's an amazing brand.
There was a lot of stupid things done here.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. President and Secretary Duffy and all of us. You know, one of the last times I was here is when you signed the electric vehicle CRA, Congressional Review Act, that all of us participated in, the beginning of really making common sense, because it was going to impact 17 other states and really a large part of our economy. This is about affordability here. I'm just going to say one thing. Well, maybe I already said one thing, so now I'm going to say 2 things. When we talk about a car and auto, we sort of talk about just, oh, we need a car. Do you know what a car does for a family? You can take your children to school, you can go to the store, you can visit your mother, you can go to church, you can have a job, you have the flexibility that you need. A car for an American family is about a roadway to prosperity.
Big deal.
It's a big deal. And so by making them more affordable, making them more choice-driven by what families want and need, today is a great day for the American family.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and the American worker.
Say.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and Secretary Duffy, and to my colleagues that are here. In Tennessee, we make great automobiles, and we have a fantastic workforce. And whether you're GM or Ford, with their new investment in Tennessee, or Nissan or VW or Toyota with the engine plant, what you see is the components that are necessary to build these cars. And removing these standards and making cars more affordable does mean that more people will purchase them, but it also means we're going to have to make more cars to meet that demand, and for Tennessee, that is a great thing.
So, you know, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, like, we have the biggest auto manufacturers in the world. They're talking about investing billions and they're investing it as we speak, but billions and billions of dollars in our country. Thank you very much. And they're here. They're not like, well, maybe we'll do it. They're doing it because of tariffs, and they're doing it because of maybe they like the president, and we're doing things like this for them, which frankly, no matter who you are, this should be done. And we're doing things like deductibility of interest. When you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct it from your income tax. That is a massive tax cut for people that probably are going to be trying to buy that car anyway. And I really think that that interest factor is going to be one of the biggest things. When I was proud of that because I thought of it, and it seems so simple. Other people are allowed big interest. If you're a rich person, you're allowed to have big interest deductions for different things you do. But if you're a middle-income person that has to buy a car, you were never entitled to anything. And now you're getting a full interest deduction on the loan. And I think that's going to have one of the biggest impacts. But we're here with companies that are investing tens of billions of dollars in our country as we speak. It's not going to be in 2 years or 3 years. A lot of it's because of the expensing provision in the bill, in the big, beautiful bill. But a miracle is happening in our country. It's a miracle. This is just the auto industry, but we have other industries where it's the same thing. They're building all over our country, and this is a revolution is happening. It's a business revolution. It's a jobs revolution. It's a car revolution. We're bringing back the car industry that was stolen from us because we have people that didn't know what they were doing sitting at this desk. They put the wrong people in because they weren't advised properly. And this is really an incredible thing that's happening. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And I think in many respects, pretty much everything that could be said has been, except that I think what Kevin talks about in terms of the cascading economic opportunity from this one single event is just the tip of the iceberg. When you think of all the rules and regulations that you have repealed, I think it's more important, frankly, than the tax cuts. However, in the Working Family Tax Cuts Act, remember we made permanent a lot of really good policy from the first Trump era, not the least of which for small businesses is bonus depreciation. The opportunity to depreciate the year that you purchase an F-150 for your small business or a large truck for your farm. I just think we're going to roll into 2026 and we're going to see an escalation of economic opportunity, the likes of which I probably have never seen.
I think nobody's ever seen it, nobody in the world, because there's never been 18 or whatever it ends up being. In 10 months, we have $18 trillion being invested. We never had $1 trillion being invested. And Biden had much less than that. Think of it. He had less than $1 trillion over 4 years. We have $18 trillion in 10 months, and it's actually as of 9 months. So there's never been anything. Eric?
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. And on behalf of the people of the great state of Missouri, who we actually make things from F-15s to F-47s now, thanks to you. We'll be building the F-47 and then F-150s. And those are real jobs. And we make things in Missouri. This is going to go a long way, I think, for making things more affordable for normal people. Nothing could be more American than driving a car on a highway. And this is going to make that more accessible for more people. So thanks for your leadership.
Your state's doing a great job.
Yeah, well, they love you too.
It's a great place. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to talk to you just a minute from a rural perspective, because these CAFE standards were absolutely unworkable in rural Missouri. We need vehicles that are practical and affordable and can haul for our small businesses, for agriculture, and it just simply didn't work. Those CAFE standards didn't work. So I applaud you and Secretary Duffy for your hard work and what you're doing on behalf of rural America.
Well, it was keeping a lot of manufacturers out of our country, too. They said, we're not going to, are you crazy? They thought, outside manufacturers thought we were absolutely insane with all of the different things that were just made up nonsense. It was like made up. It was really made up by people that hate our country. I really believe. Does anybody else have anything to say?
I'd say about two quick things, Mr.
Oh,
President.
no, Bernie, I didn't see you.
Two quick things I think are really important. So the person who sat behind this desk before you gave $7,500 in subsidies to multimillionaires who are leasing electric Rolls Royces, electric Porsches, electric Lamborghinis. We're getting $7,500 from the taxpayer. And these Democrats sit on this floor and say that Republicans are for millionaires and billionaires. We are the opposite of giving $7,500 to multi-billionaires to lease foreign electric vehicles. Number two, because of your policies, at the beginning of the year, 51% of the cars sold in America were made in America, 51%, before you got sworn in. Last month, that number was 57%. We moved it 6 points, which nobody thought would be possible in 4 years. We did it in 10 months. That's something that maybe the news should cover a little bit more. And we've driven down the price of automobiles. The car prices for consumers are down before you did.
Just about everything is down. You know, this whole thing is, they use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax. They're the ones that drove the prices up. And all they do is say, affordability, and you're supposed to say, oh, that means they had low prices. No, we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years, but let's say that's history. I don't believe that. Biden had, because of his stupid ways and between his energy policies and his spending policies, we had the worst inflation in the history of our country. And now our prices are coming down, and they're coming down for cars, and they're coming down. I mean, did you hear yesterday when Chris Wright from Energy, the head of energy in our country, said there are now parts of our country, it's all happening, $1.99 for gasoline, a gallon. And we have it at $2.50, $2.60. It was at $5. And that's bigger than any tax cut we could give. You know, for the average family, that's considered bigger than any tax cut. So the word affordability, when they mention it, you ever watch them? It's all about, I saw the young lady that lost last night. She lost by a lot more than they thought. And we have a great new candidate in Congress, really great, Matt Van Epps. But I saw last night, she said, it's all about affordability, all about, they never talk about like the specifics. Right. Everything was through the roof. Eggs, when I took over, eggs were 4 times higher than they ever were. We got the prices down to the lowest level. Yep. I mean, amazing. But they never, you got to watch, they're great con people. It's like the Inflation Reduction Act. And after they got it approved, because everybody said inflation reduction, they admitted it had nothing to do with reducing inflation. It's a con job. I think affordability is the greatest con job. They look at you and they say, affordability. They don't say anything else. Everyone says, oh, their prices were so low. No, they had the worst inflation. We had the highest prices we ever had, and now they're all coming down, including beef is coming down. Beef was up there a little bit. Our ranchers did well, but we got to make them do a little bit less well, perhaps. But the beef is now coming down. Coffee is now coming down. It's all coming down. And it's a beautiful thing to see. But remember this, when they use the word affordability, they just say, they never say anything else. This election's about affordability, and then they go into the next subject. It's a con job. They caused the highest prices in the history of our country, the worst inflation in the history of our country, and we're getting those prices down, and they're coming down rapidly. And you'll see those results very soon. Anybody else want to say a few words? Oh, Ted, I can't believe it.
I'm easy to miss.
It's very rare that I would miss it. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, Mr. President, I want to congratulate you on behalf of everyone here for the leadership that you're showing. And this is a victory today for consumers. This is a victory for affordability. Your critics like to say the word affordability. Under Joe Biden and the Democrats, they put mandate after mandate after mandate on cars and trucks, and they drove the price up thousands and thousands of dollars. And with the actions you're taking today, and you put on top of that the one big beautiful bill, you know, most of the senators here on the Senate Commerce Committee, and on the Commerce Committee, we worked together to zero out the CAFE standards. We wrote that into the law that the CAFE standards went to zero. What does that mean? It means you can now, as a consumer, buy the car you want. It also means people's lives will be safer, because what these regulations did is they forced cars to be more expensive and made of plastic instead of steel. because you had to make them lighter to comply with these standards, so you'd get in a wreck and people would die. The result of what you're doing, you're literally saving people's lives, and you're making it where families can afford to get a new car. These actions will drop the cost of cars and trucks thousands of dollars. That makes a real difference. And I'll make one final point. About half the members here are car dealers. And I will say my good friend Roger Williams out in the lobby, he tried to sell me a car, which didn't surprise me, but I just want to give props to Mike Kelly. He showed he was savvier because he tried to sell you a car, and you can afford a much nicer car than I can. So well done, Mike. Roger, you just went to the wrong customer.
That was $100 cheaper.
The thing that Ted just said, it's true. Plastic instead of steel. Think of that. And people died because of that. The plastic was plastic in an auto accident, and it broke up, and people were shattered because of that crazy deal. But it's a really good point. Go ahead.
And Mr. President, I'll tell you, in the Senate Commerce Committee on January 14th, we're going to have a hearing with all of the big three there and Tesla, and the entire hearing is going to focus on how your leadership has reduced the burdens on car makers. That's lowering costs, that's giving consumers more choices, and it's producing more jobs in America. And it's highlighting that's a real record of success.
Yeah, well, it's an honor. And, they were going by California. We had like 2 different countries, California and 15 that followed California, because you had 15 states follow California. And the rules from California were just like everything else. That's why people are leaving. That's why it's such a mess. There's a state with such unbelievable potential. But what they did with the car industry is incredible. And that was, the car companies didn't know what to do because they had 2 standards, and you can't build 2 different cars for the same country. And what we're doing today is very big. Would anybody like to say something? Would you like to say something, my friend?
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you. Once again,
and we love you, Brian.
Oh, I love you too, Mr. President. I've always said
he's a good man.
Well, I appreciate that. I've always said you've tackled the three M's: mortgage, munchkins, and marriage. You've solidified all of those. I'll add motor vehicles to that now. My question, I got one about consumer confidence. We just came off on the record high Black Friday, up 9.1%.
Highest ever. Biggest amount ever purchased in one day. Yep.
Which I think counters this narrative of affordability, because apparently the Americans are spending money. So I want to see, how do you view that for a consumer confidence being so high going into Christmas and going into next year? And I do have one for the auto group after you.
I just think that we have tremendous confidence in the country. One of the things in terms of confidence, if you go back a year and a half, it's amazing. We're like into 10 months already, but you go back a little bit before the election, because after November 5th, it started changing rapidly, even though we weren't running it until January 20th. But when you look back and you look at the enlistment of soldiers, people that wanted to join the military, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, it's like booming. It's all Space Force. But we had the worst recruitment in the history of our country. A year later, we have the greatest recruitment in the history. You can't even get in. Getting in is like getting into a top college that you couldn't get in. People want to be in the service now, and that includes the police and firemen, other things. You couldn't hire police. You couldn't hire anybody in the Army or the Navy. You couldn't get people in. And we now have gone from that to record recruitment. We're getting high quality people, amazing people, wanting to be in the military. They have spirit now, call it what you want, but that's part of it. But they have great spirit now. It's a great thing. Go ahead, ask your second question.
Okay, my second question, I've got a lot of close family friends that are in the automotive business, own dealerships all across Southern California. They sent me a question to ask you. There's a thing called a mileage blocker that is installed on vehicles. It's a type of a computer chip which alters the actual mileage driven on the vehicle, so that when you have a leased vehicle that's turned in, they're losing thousands of dollars. They've got to go chase down these manufacturers. What can we do to track down these manufacturers of this illegal computer chip that's really hurting the automotive industry?
Have you heard about this?
Yes, sir. They're getting built in China, and most of them are coming out of Great Britain, sir. They're being distributed through China, through distributors selling them online through Great Britain. Yes, sir.
Wow. That's not so good. What do you
No,
think?
look at that.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Do you burn it? Do you know anything about that?
It works on older vehicles, and obviously, well, we got to do a better job. of
Yeah,
making
I
sure
think
patrolling
it's
at the border.
something, I've never heard of it. Very good. We never heard of it. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, you released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what
I
happened?
don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem. You know, we stopped, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives.
That's right.
And
Thank you.
if you look at our, if you
Thank
look
you.
at our numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%. I'm surprised there's 9% you want to. I don't know who's doing the 9%, but it's down 91, and we're going to start very soon on land, and I'm sure you're thrilled to hear that.
On Ukraine, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were there last night with Vladimir Putin. Can you give us an update about those talks? It sounds from what the Kremlin is saying that they're not going to compromise. Can you tell us what you've...
I don't know what the Kremlin's doing. I can tell you that they had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. We're going to find out. It's a war that should have never been started. It's a war, if I were president, we had a rigged election. If I were president, that war would have never happened. It's a terrible thing. But I thought they had a very good meeting yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. It's, you know, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. You know, Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering. But the sad part is, if I were president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened. It's a very sad situation. So think of this. Last month, 27,000 soldiers. 27. That's like you take a stadium, a football stadium, not an arena, and you cut it in half. 27,000 people died. Young, mostly young soldiers, died last month, in 1 month. And that's the only reason I'm involved. You know, we're not spending any money in the war. We're selling to NATO. We're not being ripped off like we were under Biden. Biden was handing everybody everything we had, giving them all the missiles, everything they wanted, free, no charge. So he had no idea what he was doing. They're paying top dollar, full price for everything. Goes to NATO, and then NATO distributes it. NATO pays us. So it's not money. We would all, I think I can speak for everyone behind here. The politicians I know and the auto manufacturers are good people. They don't want to see 27,000 people die for no reason whatsoever. And that's the only reason I'm trying to help. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, switching to Venezuela for a second. Have you checked back with President Maduro? I mean, is your pressure campaign working? And do you think, how's he responding to your demand that he leave the country?
It's not pressure campaign. It's much beyond that, I think. But I spoke to him briefly, just told him a couple of things. We'll see what happens with that. Venezuela sends us drugs, but Venezuela sends us people that they shouldn't be sending. They emptied their prisons into our country. They sent us killers, murderers. They sent us drug dealers at the highest level. They sent us gang members. They sent us people from their mental institutions. They emptied their mental institutions into our country. And so did other countries, because we had stupid people running this country, really stupid people. And I think probably you had some stupid ones and you had some smart ones, but there were bad people too. Because not all of them were stupid. You can't cheat on elections like they did and be stupid, okay?
Did you talk to him a second time or just that one time?
What's that?
To Maduro. Did you speak to him again?
No, I didn't.
Mr. President, if you do find...
When you spoke with Mr. Witkoff and with Mr. Kushner...
Last night,
did they give you the sense that President Putin still wants to end the war, wants to make peace?
He would like to end the war. That was their impression. Now, whether or not,
you believe
that was their impression. You know, their impression was that he would like to see the war ended. I think he'd like to get back to dealing a more normal life. I think he'd like to be trading with the United States of America, frankly, instead of losing thousands of soldiers a week. But their impression was very strongly that they'd like to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
Mr. President, the boat strikes, if it is found that survivors were actually killed while clinging on to that boat, should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people by the millions, actually, if you look over a few years. I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed. That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people killed, the people that are trying to get their son or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed? I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land too, because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors after the initial
No, I
strike?
support the decision to knock out the boats. And whoever's piloting those boats, most of them are gone. But whoever are piloting those boats, they're guilty of trying to kill people in our country. Yeah, please.
The House Judiciary Committee has subpoenaed Jack Smith.
He's an evil man. He hurt a lot of people. Forget about me. I do this stuff, but I got indicted many times by a guy that they were dismissed. He's a bad guy. He's a sick man. There's something wrong with him, actually. I think Jack Smith is a sick man. There's something really wrong with him. I'd rather see him testify publicly because there's no way he can answer the questions. But Biden knew this was going along. Kamala knew it was going along. And there's a lot of things happening right now that they don't like. One of the things is the auto pen. Everything he signed, almost, with the exception of the pardon of his wonderful son, Hunter, just about everything he signed was not signed by him. He had no knowledge of it. He didn't know what it was. People sitting around the beautiful Resolute desk knew exactly what it was. And those people are guilty, in my opinion, of a major crime. Everything that was signed by that auto pen, the man operating the auto pen, and I'm sure there are more than one because I think some of the people can operate it themselves, some of the high-level people operated themselves. They would just go in and sign his name with an auto pen onto very important documents, not only pardons, but policy, maybe CAFE standards, okay, as an example. Who signed CAFE? If you ask Biden what's a CAFE standard, he would have absolutely no idea. He'd say, where is the CAFE located? The guy didn't know anything. Look, that just shows you what a rigged election can be, but you understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
You've had conversations with...
I did, with Jensen.
Right, so...
Smart man.
In your conversations with him, have you kind of given a sense of where you are with export controls and the types of chips that NVIDIA can give to China?
Sure, he knows very well. He's done an amazing job. NVIDIA, very good. Yeah.
Mr. President, when do you expect for phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan to be implemented? And
Well, it's going along well. They had a problem today, I understand, with a bomb that went off and hurt some people pretty badly, probably killed some people. They're telling me it just happened. But it's going on very... We have peace in the Middle East. People don't realize it. We have tremendous support. 59 countries. There's tremendous support. But phase 2 is moving along. Yeah, it's going to happen pretty soon.
Mr. President, did you speak with House Republican leadership about your decision to pardon Congressman Henry Cuellar? And are you concerned that you made a vulnerable Democrat perhaps less vulnerable with that decision?
It didn't matter. He's a respected person. He was treated very badly because he said that people should not be allowed to pour into our country. And he was right. He didn't like open borders. He was on the border. He represents a very respected man. He represents the people on the border. And he saw what was happening. And as soon as he made that statement, I then said, I'll bet he gets indicted. And that's what happened. I put out my truth from that. Well, I did a truth. Wonderful truth. We love truth. But what happened is he got indicted for speaking the truth. And his wife got indicted, Imelda. And that's sort of a first. Usually they leave the wives alone, right? Don't they, Congressman? Typically they indict somebody. put him in jail for the rest of his life, but the wife can just sit home and cry, or she'll find a new man. You know? A lot of times they find a new man that makes them much happier. In fact, a lot of times they like that man better than the one that's in jail.
Mr. President, thank you. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also
I
saying
wouldn't be
that
proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country. And without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon. I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople, okay? They shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople because they don't represent the interests of our country. Anybody else?
The automakers spent billions on meeting the Biden EV rules. Should they be able to recoup that somehow, given the change? And there's a question about the
doing it. No. I'm not letting them recoup. They're going to do just fine. You know how they recoup? From this point forward, they'll do very well.
Can you also talk about the USMCA and what you're thinking about renegotiating that with the automakers?
Well, we're you know, that's just an ongoing thing. It expires in about a year, and we'll either let it expire or we'll maybe work out another deal with Mexico and Canada. But look, Mexico and Canada have taken advantage of the United States, like just about every other country, in all fairness. It's not them, I'm not blaming them. But every country, because we had stupid people running our country. We had a lot of stupid people running. That's why we have $38 trillion in debt. But the beautiful thing about the tariffs is we'll start paying off that debt. The money coming in, they're finding money in our country now that they never knew existed. The other day, $30 billion. Where did it come from? I said, why don't you check the tariff shelf? They said, sir, that tariff hasn't started yet. It doesn't start till January. I said, no, it started 2 months ago. They called back, sir, you're right, it was from tariffs. No, we have a whole different country. I hope the Supreme Court, I pray that the Supreme Court understands the importance of the sensible, really, I mean, this would be country threatening if something happened with regard to that. You know, the people that brought that case are bad people. They're very bad people. They hate our country. They represent foreign countries, including China, but they represent, and China's paying us a lot of money now in tariffs, but they represent people that really don't like our country much. And I know some of them, and they're scum. In my opinion, they're scum. They're absolute scum. And they're not suing for any good reason. They're just suing to see if they can stop it, because they make money if this country does badly. you know? So, but we're taking in trillions of dollars. We're stopping wars. We have great national security because of tariffs. And then to think that we have to even go and justify this. The reason a lot of these people, I can tell you this, maybe we would have had the political people, we wouldn't have these people without tariffs. The people that are up here from Stellantis and Ford and General Motors, great companies, including this gentleman, they wouldn't be here today if we didn't have tariffs. They'd be building their plants in Mexico and other places. They're leaving Mexico and they're leaving Canada. They're leaving because they ripped off our country. They took our businesses away from us. And now because of tariffs, they're all coming back. So it's a great thing. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, you call Somalia is garbage. But about
Thank you guys for moving.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you for
And you are just watching President Trump at the White House unveiling a reset of federal fuel standards that were heightened under the Biden administration. The White House says the new fuel standards will save American families money. Here to discuss is Paul Fix, an automotive analyst for Car Coach Reports. So Paul, thank you for joining us here today. A lot of smiles in that event, high spirits as well. Seems people are happy about what President Trump is doing. Can you just talk to us about the standards that were set under the Biden administration? Numbers like 50 miles per gallon, 62 miles per gallon were raised during that event. How feasible is that?
It's very, very difficult to hit those numbers, and that's evident by the fact that there are no current vehicles on the market that can get anywhere close to 50 miles per gallon as a regular internal combustion engine or even a diesel vehicle. Some hybrids get really close, but the fact of the matter is that if these companies aren't able to make vehicles that hit the 50 miles per gallon target, then they have to pay billions of dollars in fees as essentially an apology back to the government that they couldn't meet these completely infeasible standards. And so as a move, as we've talked about a couple of times, and you can see that they were talking about in the press conference, the move was, okay, well, if we can't meet the regulations with internal combustion engines, let's try with hybrids, let's try with electric vehicles. And electric vehicles seem to be kind of the catch-all solution to attempt to hit these targets because EVs have a completely different calculation. It's a much longer conversation, but there's a different calculation that's used for electric vehicles that kind of bypasses the need to calculate MPG correctly. And then companies like Tesla, for instance, can sell these electric vehicle tax credits back to companies like Stellantis that aren't meeting those requirements. And then Stellantis doesn't have to build more hybrids and EVs. But then you see other companies like Chevy. Cadillac is an excellent example because their history is with very large luxury vehicles. You have the Escalade, you have some of their sedans, which they're starting to phase out, but they're known for large horsepower, large, heavy, luxurious vehicles. And their solution to that was to start to build electric versions of almost everything that they make, and the sales just aren't there to prove it. So there's this push and pull of these manufacturers trying to meet these infeasible targets and then investing billions and billions of dollars in brand new technology to attempt to get back some of their investment and also meet these regulations. By removing some of these regulations and especially removing the fees that are associated with them, which Trump already did with the big, beautiful bill that passed earlier this year, that allows these manufacturers to be more flexible, and it also potentially could reduce the price of cars that you see on the dealer lot.
So, Paul, with this announcement, with what the Trump administration is doing, rolling back these fuel efficiency standards that were enacted under the Biden administration, how much will it translate to savings at the dealership?
So we currently have estimates that cars increased in price just from these requirements, about $1,000 to $3,000. But there's also a lot of other things to take into account as to why your car value, the value of a brand new car is increased, because the cost of a new car on average as of September is $50,000, which is up dramatically from previous years. And while it's fluctuated here and there, and tariffs definitely have something to do with it, access to materials have something to do with it, but also there's a lot of new safety standards that are mandated for cars. There's a lot of new expensive technology when it comes to hybrid integrations, which dramatically increase the price. And then you have safety standards and, as I was mentioning, better crash safety, higher quality materials, the new gigantic screens that are in a lot of different cars. All of this adds to the cost. And if, at least on the side of emissions, which is usually one of the most expensive of these components I've just mentioned, if they're able to roll back some of these requirements to allow the OEMs to develop the technology at their own pace, obviously, everybody wants to make a car that has good MPG. Nobody wants to buy a car that gets 10 MPG. I have a truck that gets 13. It's not fun, but I use it for hauling things, and that makes sense for me. And if I can't buy that car as of 2030 because of these requirements, then it makes no sense for any of these manufacturers to sell them. And then I'm out of a vehicle. Let's say that my vehicle bites the dust. I got to get a new vehicle. Well, then I can't buy a new vehicle that meets my requirements. The electric trucks do not do the same things as the current diesel and ICE trucks. It's not there. And so by allowing these OEMs to develop the cars as they need to that meet the requirements of their customers, not the requirements of the government, that means that hopefully some of these costs will come down, and a lot of this R&D that we've seen that's gone into making cars more efficient could actually bear some fruit in a way that doesn't then saddle them with billions of dollars in fees. A great example is Stellantis had to pay $13 billion last year. Oh, I'm sorry. They did have to pay billions of dollars to the government for not meeting their standards. And now hopefully they can take that money that they would pay in fees and invest them back into manufacturing. And you heard all of the different representatives from the big three, which although Stellantis is based out of Belgium now, we still consider them one of the big three. They're all investing billions of dollars here in the US, and that's a much better investment for the American economy. And you can see that the UAW and SEMA and many other groups of people are supporting this move, because all that means that we are going to have better access to cars, more choice when it comes to what we want to buy. And hopefully, like he was saying, jobs are going to come back here. They're going to pull them out of spreading them all away from the U.S. and maybe having a better mix. That all of these things could decrease costs for us as the consumer, because at the end of the day, that's really what this is all about.
Okay, Paul, this is the concern I have, and you tell me if it's a legitimate concern. You said your truck gets 13 mpg or miles per gallon. Yes. Does this new move incentivize companies to make cars less efficient? Is this going to raise fuel costs in the long term?
That's an excellent question. And there is some over-under here that we have to be careful about, because we're moving into the area of speculation. So when my truck gets bad fuel economy, that means, well, you can't get a truck that gets better fuel economy. I think 17 is about the best I've gotten on the highway. But when you're needing to haul a trailer with a car in it, which, I'm a car guy, it makes sense for me, but there's a lot of other uses for these things. You need a lot of horsepower and a lot of torque. And you need to have that capability to be able to do those things. And if you don't have that capability, then what are you left with? Are you left with hiring an 18-wheeler that increased costs for Americans rather than just buying your own truck and doing your own work? So like I said, there's a lot of over-under. So let's say that MPG does go down because, we don't need to make more efficient cars. I think that would affect the purchase rate of a lot of vehicles, because consumers want to save money at the pump. So they would prefer to buy a car that gets better MPG. And you can see that with a lot of the Japanese car companies, especially Honda, who gets very good fuel economy on a lot of their cars. They actually have some of the best in the industry. So if a lot of these companies start to make cars with lower MPG, I think that they're going to see a dramatic drop in their sales. If they continue on their current track, but without the saddling of all of those additional fees from the government, I think that we could see maybe a slower increase of MPG. And we could even see people driving more, because this is the other factor of it, is that if MPG is better, then people will want to drive more. And that could affect supply and demand from the oil industry. And that could mean more drilling. It could mean a lack of supply, which could mean higher prices. There's a lot of ways that this could go here. But at the end of the day, if the cost of the vehicle can go down and the technology can kind of stay where it is or get better, I think all of this comes out to a net positive.
Well, all right, Paul, really appreciate you talking to us today. Terrific insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
When we come back, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell has fueled speculation that he will make a run for governor of Minnesota by filing the paperwork to do so. More news after this break.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms. Thank you. Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters? It's a lie. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast? No thanks, we're good. Let's go. They're always in their own world. What'd you get there? Twice the work. Twice the surprises. Just try it. Good. But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling. I think you should ask her yourself.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has launched an investigation into alleged fraud in Minnesota's social services programs. The Kentucky Republican pointed to a potential cover-up and reports of retaliation against whistleblowers. In a letter sent to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison, Comer said the committee is seeking documents, communications, and records as part of its investigation. In his request, Comer cited federal charges against individuals accused of stealing more than $240 million from the federal child nutrition program. The Republican pointed to another group accused of defrauding Minnesota's housing stabilization program of more than $100 million. Comer has given Walz and Ellison until December 17th to provide the requested information. The CEO of MyPillow has officially filed paperwork to run for governor of Minnesota. But this doesn't necessarily mean he's launching his campaign just yet. Here's how Mike Lindell explained his decision.
I know you have all been encouraging us. I've been traveling around Minnesota and the country. Everyone, I was at the airport a couple days ago, and everyone's coming up. Will you please run? There's our state's just being destroyed.
Lindell has filed the necessary paperwork and created a campaign committee that will allow him to raise money for a run. Lindell expressed his disapproval of current Democratic Governor Tim Walz, and Lindell said he will announce his official decision about running for governor next Thursday during a press conference at MyPillow. The Justice Department sued 6 more states yesterday for refusing to respond to a request for statewide voter registration rolls. That number brings the number of states sued to at least 14. NTD's Arlene Richards has more details.
The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division announced on Tuesday that lawsuits had been filed against 6 more states for failure to disclose voter registration rolls. The states this time include Delaware, Maryland, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. In the lawsuit, the department accuses the states of failing to maintain accurate voter rolls and make those records available for inspection. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement that the states had fallen into a pattern of noncompliance and that the law requires them to comply with basic voter roll maintenance. This latest action brings the total to at least 14 states the department has sued in an effort to obtain voter information. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon of the department's Civil Rights Division said our federal elections laws ensure every American citizen may vote freely and fairly. Representatives from the 6 states have not officially commented on the lawsuit. In September, Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs responded to a letter from the DOJ requesting the voter registration list. He said, while we will provide the DOJ with the voter registration data that state law already makes public, we will not compromise the privacy of Washington voters. The DOJ sued Maine and Oregon in September over voter registration rolls. At that time, Maine's Secretary of State Shenna Bellows said she didn't trust what the Trump administration would do with the personal voter information. In the announcement of the latest lawsuits, Attorney General Pam Bondi said accurate voter rolls are the cornerstone of fair and free elections. She said the department will continue filing election integrity litigation until states comply. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
5,000 illegal immigrant arrests is the goal for a new ICE operation in New Orleans. The Department of Homeland Security says the operation, which launched today, is prioritizing illegal aliens who were released after previously being locked up in local jails. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
Catalua Crunch, which we are launching today down in New Orleans, we're first and foremost really focusing on those worst of the worst criminals.
The Department of Homeland Security launches the latest federal immigration enforcement operation in the city of New Orleans. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin says that ICE is specifically prioritizing illegal immigrants who were previously in local jails.
Because New Orleans functions as a sanctuary city, those individuals were not released to ICE. They were instead released back onto New Orleans streets.
McLaughlin says that the operation will continue whether it be 5,000 arrests or more. The DHS released information on some of the people they are targeting, saying sanctuary policies endanger American communities by releasing illegal criminal aliens and forcing DHS law enforcement to risk their lives to remove criminal illegal aliens that should have never been put back on the streets. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says that Operation Catalua Crunch will remove the worst of the worst from New Orleans, Louisiana, after the city's sanctuary politicians have ignored the rule of law. New Orleans Mayor-elect Helena Moreno has been critical of the federal surge in the city, even launching a website instructing people how to navigate interactions with federal agents. Moreno says, "My first priority is to keep our community safe. The reports of due process violations and potential abuses in other cities are concerning. I want our community to be aware and informed of the protections available under law." Some stores in New Orleans have posted signs saying that ICE is not allowed inside unless they have a warrant. Meanwhile, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry has been outspoken in his support for federal assistance.
We welcome our federal partners. We've seen it work in other parts of the state, in New Orleans as well. And we're going to just lean in even heavier to make our streets safe.
Jason Blair, NTD News.
2025 has seen a dramatic increase in violence against law enforcement across the country. Lawmakers examined the role that anti-law enforcement rhetoric plays on the increase in violence. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has more on this story.
Today's hearing is not about silencing dissent or restricting free speech. It is about responsibility and recognizing that rhetoric has consequences and ensuring that officers can perform their duties without fear.
In 2024, the FBI reported more than 85,000 assaults on law enforcement officers, the highest number in over a decade. And in 2025 alone, Immigration and Customs Enforcement registered an increase of 1,100% of assaults against its officers.
Federal officers remain unwavering in their oath to the Constitution and their duty to enforce the laws Congress enacts, regardless of the political environment. What has changed is the environment in which they serve. It has grown increasingly hostile with rising violence, threats, and online harassment directed at officers.
Experts in today's hearing singled out polarizing rhetoric against the duties of law enforcement as the main cause for increase in assaults against law enforcement officers.
The rhetoric coming from the top, calling officers Nazis and Gestapo, it better stop right now. You are inflaming dangerous circumstances. A job that is to enforce the laws of this country, the laws that have been passed by those that have been elected by the people of this country.
According to the FBI, 1/3 of cop killers self-identifies with the narratives that portrays law enforcement as the villain.
That narrative, used for political gain, is amplified across social media platforms and other means, and it all too often goes unchallenged. And it's not harmless rhetoric, it is fuel. We have seen this fuel ignite in cities and towns, large and small, all across America.
Democratic lawmakers did not invite an expert for today's hearing, but a private citizen who launched attacks on the Trump administration.
The fact of the matter is that right now, in the United States of America, there is a semi-secret police force abducting people based on the color of their skin and sending many of them via state-sponsored human trafficking to extraterritorial concentration camps.
Today's hearing comes 1 week after 2 National Guardsmen were shot in Washington, D.C. One of them, Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, died from her wounds, and the other remains in serious conditions. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
The Trump administration continues to limit U.S. visas for certain foreign nationals. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced today that there will be consequences for those who persecute people of faith. In a post on X, he said, quote, "The State Department will restrict U.S. visas for those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, support, or carry out violations of freedom of religion. This visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people for their religious beliefs." Rubio said this policy is in response to atrocities and violence against Christians in Nigeria. So far, it's unclear what other governments or individuals are targeted. A day after a meeting in Moscow, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is making progress in parts of the peace process to end the war in Ukraine. Also, the Kremlin responds to questions on whether Russian President Putin rejected a U.S. peace proposal. NTD's international correspondent Ari Pastar has the latest.
What we have tried to do, and I think have made some progress, is figure out what can the Ukrainians live with that gives them security guarantees for the future. They're never going to be invaded again.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio telling Fox News that security guarantees are a major part of the ongoing peace process, not just to prevent another invasion, but to make sure Ukraine can also rebuild its economy once the fighting stops. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Russian President Putin in Moscow on Tuesday, but the meeting ultimately produced no direct results. The Kremlin describes the talks as constructive, while adding that compromises had not yet been found. But Russia denies reports saying that Putin rejected a 28-point peace plan put forward by the US.
No, it's not correct. Some things were accepted, others were marked as unacceptable. This is a normal working process, a search for compromise.
And Ukraine confirms that the US delegation entered in contact after the Moscow meeting. But Kiev wasn't briefed on the details during that conversation.
Since this was a telephone contact for security reasons, it is difficult to imagine that the details of the Moscow meeting were discussed.
But the spokesman added that the American side said the Putin meeting helped steer the process in the right direction. And NATO wants to increase pressure on Russia. 2/3 of NATO member states have committed to support Ukraine with weapons through the so-called Prioritized Ukraine Requirement List, or PEARL in short. In total, the program received commitments worth $4 billion. This includes contributions from Australia and New Zealand, which are not members of NATO. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Ukrainian President Zelensky just said Kyiv is preparing for talks with U.S. officials in Washington in the coming days. According to Zelensky, the meeting will take place after the American team returns from Moscow and holds internal consultations. He added that things have been developing effectively in the recent days, after Ukrainian officials met with U.S. delegations in Geneva and then in Florida on Sunday. Tuesday night was the Bryant Park tree lighting in Manhattan, New York City. NTD was there to speak with entertainers and attendees. More news after this break.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
So Ariel, we made this yearbook for you. It has notes from all the people that are here. Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver. And we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Off the beaten path while visiting New York City. There are places like Bryant Park, maybe not the first place on people's tourist agenda, but Full of holiday experience and a yearly tree lighting celebration. NTD Sean Marshall has more.
Each year, Bryant Park in Manhattan, New York, transforms into the Bank of America Holiday Winter Village. And this year's tree lighting ceremony featured a number of ice skating Olympians and entertainers, like the Ice Theater of New York Professional Ensemble, Harlem's Performance Team, and the Skyliners Synchronized Skating Team. For more than a decade, Bank of America has partnered with Bryant Park to make the Winter Village possible to spread joy to millions every year.
Any day you can come here, you can eat, shop, skate, or some of you may do it all. But this time of year, this park is really transformed.
The centerpiece of the Winter Village is the 17,000 square foot rink, which features free admission, ice skating, and ice rink bumper cars.
Well, for a performance like this, I feel like I was just excited because the crowd was so big around the rink. It was so fun, the energy. So I think I was just really excited. That's how I felt getting on the ice.
Yeah, I would have to say I was really excited too, just to perform for everyone and show what we've been working on.
The European-inspired open-air market of holiday shops feature artisans from New York and around the world. It's a local economic driver that last year alone brought in over $50 million in revenue.
It feels like we're from Ireland, a small island, and look, even around here at the buildings, it's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. There's a lot of energy, it was a lot of excitement and, whatever, put a lot of joy in my heart.
This year's tree lighting celebration didn't hold much back. Bryant Park doesn't just host a winter village, but also holds different musical and arts events all year long. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
The trash panda is living up to its name. Just listen to this story out of Virginia. Officers were called to a liquor store in Hanover County after the place was found ransacked. Liquor bottles strewn about, and the masked suspect passed out on the bathroom floor. And that suspect, a very drunk raccoon, he's going to be getting a hangover in Hanover County. An officer was able to get him to an animal shelter where he was checked out for injuries and given a chance to sleep off his hangover or his drunkenness. He was then released back into the wild. All right, thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. Taking a break, we'll be back with more news, NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.